Welcome to the April Ordinary Council meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise that this meeting is being streamed live to the internet and all those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements, and upon joining these online meetings you accept the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the April Ordinary Council meeting, the time being 5:30 p.m. We'll start with the prayer from Councillor Butler, please.
Yes, let's all pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this day. We thank you that we can gather together as a group of councillors and directors to gather and to discuss these important issues. Father in heaven, I just pray your Holy Spirit be here, your presence among us, that you would give us peace in our hearts and clarity in our thought, so that we would make that decision which is best for our community, and to act in true love towards them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Acknowledgement of country, please. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yiridu Marang, Yuundu Pam. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri peoples who are the traditional custodians of the land that we are all meeting on today. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders past and present, and those of the Wiradjuri Nation, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal peoples and other nations in the room. Mandangu. Thank you.
Thank you. Item CCL 25/82, leave of absence. There are no leave of absences, and Councillor Dickerson is joining online. Item CCL 25/83, conflicts of interests. Do any councillors have any conflicts that they wish to declare? Councillor Cowley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I have a conflict of interest with IPEC 25/26, the discussion of the proposed development on the Old Dubbo Road. It is non-pecuniary but significant. I live within a block of the proposed development and have discussed the development prior to being elected with friends who live adjacent. So my interest is non-pecuniary but significant, and during the discussion of that item I will be absent from the room.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. CCL 25/105 is the outcome of tender for real estate agency services to sell land within Keswick Estate. I'm an owner of a parcel of land in Stage 5 Release 2. That block settled some time ago, and the awarding of future tender has no financial bearing or anything on me, so it'll be non-pecuniary, less insignificant, and I'll stay in the room for that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is CCL 25/84, public forum. I'll now run through the rules of public forum. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to speak maximum. When you come forward to speak, please state your name and the item that you are speaking to. When you have 30 seconds remaining, I'll ring a bell, and at 5 minutes you'll hear the bell ring multiple times, the microphone will be turned off, and you'll conclude speaking. Registered speakers will be asked to speak first, followed by members of the gallery who also wish to speak if time allows. Gallery members should refrain from any disruptive behaviour, including clapping or jeering. I'll now call the following registered speakers. First up we have Mr Roland Samuels.
Do I address the General Manager or the Mayor first?
Either, the Council.
Mayor, General Manager, Councillors. Hello, I'm Roland Samuels, and I'm offering a brief on behalf of the descendants of James Samuels Jr., a man we feel could be deserving of recognition. Tonight my purpose is just to pepper our minds to the 1840s, to the 1900s. I'm not going to concentrate on James Samuels' deeds, but stop and consider what the circumstances were at this time. Firstly, Dubbo was a flat red bit of country bordered by the Womble River and later to become the Macquarie to the west. Surveyors had set allotments on what was now the Lazy River and Angle subdivisions. This country flooded, so they returned and subdivided allotments to the north and formed a community. Allotments were balloted. Other than land scattered with surveyor pegs, roadways were just tracks like you'd see on a farm today. The surrounding land was stocked with sheep and cattle, not fenced, not looked after by shepherds. James Samuels Sr. followed his daughter from Bristol. She married a man who was a shepherd for the Dalhuntys. Can you visualise arriving on a bullock dray with his family to pitch a tent? Imagine it if it was 40 degrees. They didn't wear shorts and t-shirts. So was there water? Not then, wooden buckets from the river. In time, wooden wells, then brick wells, about 30 feet down. They shovel these. Stores with essential merchandise scattered along Macquarie and Tarbragar sold meat, flour and salt, the basics. Purchases would be done in the English currency or with gold. Transport, horses and bullocks pulled drays and wagons. Sulkies and carriages came with time and financial circumstance. Most supplies came via merchants in Morpeth. In 1881, rail arrived. Building materials, wood mainly. A Dubbo sandstone was quarried. In time, it washed away. Adzed shingles and bark were for roofing. Slab cypress walls. Nails and bricks were too expensive for most. Concrete arrived for the well-off. Bricks when local clay pits passed muster. Health in Dubbo followed the national trend. Tuberculosis killed many. Scarlet fever, too, smallpox and infant mortality above and beyond. Young James Samuels witnessed the social deprivation. This began, like yourselves, service to community. In his case, his rest of life service. Wooden stoves for cooking and heating, gas arrived, some homes, and streets lighting Macquarie and Talbragar Street. Communications via Cobb and Co and others, letters and parcels. In 1872 in Dubbo, the telegraph arrived. I don't know if any of you remember what the telegraph was. Law selected community leaders who passed the suitability test became justices of the peace and also sat as magistrates. Drunks on festive occasions in Dubbo were generally treated with good humour and told to get back to work. Education, the 3 R's. Emile Sericia, being in some way an eccentric Frenchman, wished that all learn the native language, French. He chaired the first multi-aged class school. When trained teachers were found, Dubbo Central was built with local bricks where it is still today. The descendants of James Samuel's 4 and 5 greats have mostly been long livers. We didn't know him, but nevertheless grew up fully aware of his service and our gratitude for him having been such a decent citizen of Dubbo. We'd be grateful should you support our petition, which says, we the undersigned support the naming of the new Dubbo Bridge as the James Samuels Bridge and acknowledge the importance of the Indigenous Association. Our Dubbo community thus far physically has signed 1,557 signatures and a QR online 497. 2,051 people think the name is appropriate. Councillors, just to wind up, on the 4th of June 1866, a meeting of citizens, a committee proposed by James Samuel Senior, the Oxley Bridge to be the name of the new wooden structure crossing the Macquarie River. Another committee, a royalist lot, named it the Alfred. In time, some signwriter put up a sign, no committee, the White Bridge, and it stayed that, the White Bridge. I'd like to thank you.
Thank you, right on time. Next speaker we have Mr. Bob Berry.
Bob Berry, and I'm speaking to advocate the Newcastle Dubbo Sister City link. I thank the Mayor and Councillors and the CEO for allowing me to address Council tonight on the Dubbo Newcastle Sister City Partnership, which has developed over the past 34 years. I stand before you tonight not speaking on behalf of any organisation or business, but as someone who had the good fortune to be part of a 4-person delegation from Dubbo to Newcastle to meet with the Lord Mayor and Councillors, President and CEO of Newcastle Hunter Business Chamber in November 1991. This was 2 months after the election of the then council and Tony McGrain as mayor. I've provided a summary of these initial links between council, between Dubbo and Newcastle to all councillors and the CEO, so I won't repeat except to speak as the only surviving member of that delegation as a representative of the Dubbo Chamber. Council representatives were Mayor Tony McGrain, GM Tony Kelly and Development Officer Lindsay Teggett. The day was spent in the Lord Mayor's chambers and the Dubbo City Council delegation was very committed to an outcome, to establish an association of councils to upgrade the then very basic regional road connecting Newcastle and Western New South Wales. From that day, the Dubbo Newcastle councils established a road link task force to engage all councils along the route, then put in place a major lobbying effort with the New South Wales government. The outcome is now history, but I think the creation of the upgraded road into a state highway as the Golden Highway surpassed the most optimistic expectations of Dubbo. What was not known in the period from 91 to 93 of the lobbying effort for an upgraded road was the future creation of the Hunter Expressway, a Commonwealth piece of road infrastructure announced in the 2008 federal budget. The Hunter Expressway is estimated to take 30 minutes off the trip from Dubbo, making travel between the cities more attractive. The recent completion of the overpass at the previous intersection of the New England and Golden Highways has again reduced travel times at peak hours. The Golden Highway continues to receive New South Wales government funding and is a very different road to the one Dubbo Council sought to upgrade 34 years ago. I have provided Council, for the information of councillors, the brochure Dubbo Newcastle Road, produced in February 1993 by the Road Link Task Force. Whilst this is in the past, it reflects the considerable lobbying efforts of Dubbo Council and councillors for which our community is reaping the benefits. I'm not aware of what constitutes normal sister city relationships, and I suggest the Dubbo-Newcastle link may be somewhat different to overseas relationships. It operates 365 days without the involvement of the councils. From my personal observation, without having any hard data to back it up, suggests that the economic, social, sporting, education and tourism benefits between Dubbo and Newcastle exceed that of other sister city partnerships. I would further suggest that the balance of trade just might be in favour of Newcastle over Dubbo. The investment by Dubbo people in Newcastle, Lake Macquarie and the Hunter region generally has been considerable over the last 25 years. So now the point of my address to Council tonight. How do we, Dubbo Regional Council and the community, work in the long term to promote Dubbo so we can gain the benefit of the second biggest city in New South Wales and what that population offers Dubbo by way of tourism and investment, and benefit from the road link which Dubbo Council worked so hard for all those years ago. The initial Dubbo promotion in Newcastle was in September 1993 when Dubbo was promoted through all media channels, much of it free. It culminated in a 3-day display stand at Charlestown Square, managed by the Dubbo City Council staff from the Visitors Information Centre. I suggest 2025 is the right time for another promotion supported by Council, Chamber and the Dubbo business community. Council development and promotion staff have the marketing expertise to create other forms of promotion in Newcastle. I trust councils will retain and grow the Newcastle link for the long term to take advantage of the opportunities it offers Dubbo. I thank you for allowing me to address Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Berry. Next up, we have Mr. Mark Stacey.
Mr Mayor and councillors, thank you for the opportunity to address the council meeting tonight. My name is Mark Stacey and I'm here to add to the report CCL 25 96, which is the management of the pest bird species. In particular, the Indian myna. I'm not here so much to address the report or for and against, as I was asked before I nominated to come and talk tonight. I just want to start off by saying that I express a little bit of disappointment that consultation in the preparation of this report didn't include the local group who for the last 3 years have been actively involved in trying to eradicate or at least trying to control the exploding number of Indian miners. In April 2022, the Dubbo Indian Miner Control Program commenced, with Margaret MacDonald and Damien Salustio commencing a Facebook group. I'm not here tonight to represent that group. I have been a member of it, but due to other issues and time constraints, I'm currently not an active member of that group at this stage. The report says that there was a lot of internal consultation, and again, I think it's a missed opportunity that this group of the Facebook group that has been active for 3 years in Dubbo wasn't at least brought into the fold. The report on page 122 of the report goes on to indicate that Indian myna birds often nest in tree hollows and occupy and aggressively defend multiple hollows, preventing other wildlife from using them. That's only half the story. The other half is that they actively remove native birds and small mammals out of the nests. This has been documented by numerous photographs and videos of them. They take the young and displace the young from the hollows, and they take the eggs and remove the eggs. Now, these are our native birds, our galahs, cockatoos, all the native birds that are around. Indian miners are a very destructive bird. Again, on page 122 of the report, it goes on to say that both the Indian myna and the European starlings are asset-based protection under the Central West Animal Pest Management Act. I'll go on to elaborate on that. Those two birds, the Indian myna and starlings, are two of only 3 birds listed on the World Conservation Union's list of the top most 100 species in the world. I've only had the report since lunchtime, so I'm just sort of shooting through it a bit, but on again page 123 of the report, so I'm just trying to add to the report. I'm not actually taking from the report, I'm trying to add a few things to the report. And it says it's common understanding that trapping will not keep the Indian miners under control. Now, I'm not quite sure where that source or where that thought originated from, because I can't see the reference to that. Now, after my 3 years of local experience, I don't necessarily concur with that sentiment. Maybe I'm an optimist on that point. The Indian myna is not like native birds. They will nest and bring up youngs 2 to 3 times a year. Most native birds only nest once a year. Also, the Indian miners, they'll have a clutch of 4, 6 or 8 eggs in a clutch. So the point is, there's a graph, and it does go to show just how many a pair of Indian miners, so a pair of Indian miners starting out at year 1 can produce 776 Indian miners by year 6. That's a graph that's well recognised. Where we've come into it is that, and where I've experienced, and this is a personal experience that I've done over the 3 years of trapping, when we trap a lot of young ones. So we may not be able to eradicate them, we may not be able to completely prevent them, but I do believe we are keeping them under control. And the more trappers that are out there, the more we have the ability to keep them under control. Councillors,
Thank you, Mr. Stacey. That's a bit more than your 5 minutes. Right on. Thank you. Are there any other members in the public gallery that would like to address council? No, we'll move on. Thank you, speakers. CCL 25/85, confirmation of minutes. Do I have someone? Oh, was there? Sorry. Oh, missed that. Right. Okay. If you're quick, come forward, please, and state your name and the item you'd like to speak on, and then your 5 minutes will begin.
I just wanted to speak on a past item that I spoke on last year in October, which is about the, pardon me, sorry, my name's Marie, and I'm a local
You got
resident.
a last name, please,
Oh,
too, for
Marie
the minutes?
Caton.
Yep.
Yep. I spoke on the Port Hedland documents about the safety of the vaccines, and I just came along tonight to check in to see if any of the councillors had read the documents and what they thought about them and any action that might be taken because they're unsafe. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for that. Any other speakers for public gallery? No, we'll move on again. CCL 25/85, confirmation of minutes. Do I have someone to move that motion, please? Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wells, would you like to speak to your motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other debate, councillors? There being none, I will put that to the vote. I've opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. The next item is CCL 25/86, mayoral appointments and meetings. I'll move that. Do we have a seconder somewhere? Councillor Richardson, thank you very much. I won't speak to that. Reads to itself. Any further debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Yeah. Councillor Black, I noticed that on Saturday, the 15th of March, you attended the Titan Mud Run. I was just wondering whether you actually competed.
I didn't. And the reason was because I did my knee in at the Japanese green tea ceremony and I'm still hobbling around half broken down. But it was a very well attended event
And
by all those.
Could I just have a second question, perhaps a
Yes.
bit more serious? That on the Wednesday, the 19th of March, you attended a tour with the CEO. I was just wondering what that tour was. You may not know off the top of your head, but
I do.
Wednesday, the 19th of March.
It was possibly the best 2.5 hours of both of our lives, driving around the LGA, looking at things that could be done, a few ideas, kicking a few things around, looking at how the LGA was going. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just seen like on 12th of March, you have attended skill migration seminar. Can you give a little bit update on 12th of March?
The networking lunch.
Yep.
That was the one with, there was a couple of people came up from Councillor Chowdhury. You'd have a better Multicultural New South Wales. There was a couple of meetings that day. There was with yourself and at council here, and that was a good meeting about what can be done to really make multicultural services better in the Dubbo region. And there was that good networking lunch as well. I think you were there, Councillor Wright was there, Councillor Toynton was there, can't remember who else was there, but it was very good to hear some of the things that Multicultural New South Wales is doing and be able to feed back with, it was the Deputy CEO, I think, so it was pretty high ranking. And we see that with the funding for various festivals in Dubbo, how we consistently attract those funding sources, so very important links. Thank you, councillors. I will, if there's nothing more, I will put that to the vote. I'll open the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. The next item is CCL 25/87, mayoral expenses for March 2025. I'll move that. Is there a seconder? Councillor Cowley, thank you. I won't speak to that. Any debate, questions, councillors? There being none, I'll open the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. The next item is CCL 25/88, monthly reporting snapshots for councillors, March 2025. Do I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Chowdhury, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Cowley, thank you. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is always my favorite report. It showing every month to council, all the councillors, how everything is tracking, and I'll encourage to the community to have a look. And if you have any questions, send it to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or debate, councillors? There being none, I will put that to the vote. I've opened the voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. The next item is CCL 25/89, investment under Section 625 of the Local Government Act, March 2025. Do I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Chowdhury, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Ryan, thank you. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's really good to see some interest is coming, and that can be used for our community benefit and to the communities through you, Mr. Mayor, to the relevant staff. Like now we can see a little bit fluctuation on that interest rate. So if you can staff give a bit update how the tracking. Thank you.
Thank you. To the CEO.
I'll throw to Ms. Bathingthwaite.
The team is still looking for the best interest rate, so we do get quotes when excess funds are available from our general cash account, and we just go with the biggest. We are looking at terms as well at the moment as well, so whether or not it's best to do 1, 2, 3, 4 a long term.
That answered a question. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or debate, councillors? There being none, I will now put that to the vote. I've opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. We've got CCL 25/90, addendum D23-026 59 lot residential subdivision 2R Aldabay Road, Dubbo. Do I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Thank you. Councillor Cowley.
Mr. Mayor, so this is the discussion, or are we just moving the report?
What's this one?
Pass to me.
Yep, CEO.
So this is just for notation as extra information. It gets considered as part of the minutes of the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee, of which councils want to, based on the briefing, will be save and accept. So it'll be debated when as a separate part of the committee meeting minutes. So this one's just for notation at this point in time.
Excellent. Thanks. Councillor Richardson, would you like to speak to that at all?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Any other comments or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know whether now's the opportunity or later, but the DCCEEW that miraculously over 2 years just changed their mind. Is that surprising, or is that was it expected, or did they give any reasons why suddenly there was a 180-degree change of mind?
I'll pass to the CEO.
Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, DQ, in respect of the Water Management Act approval, did change their minds completely in that regard, whereas previously they were of a view that approval would be required because of works that are basically foreshore works under that act, and then they have just recently concluded that there's no works that trigger approval under the Water Management Act.
Is that one right, Councillor Ivey? Answer that.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Any other debate, councillors? There being none, back to the mover for right of reply to anything there. Councillor Richardson.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, I will now put that motion. I've opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. The next item is CCL 25/91, report of the Youth Council meeting 1st of April 2025. Moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Cowley. Councillor Wells, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only that, well, we're really impressed with the Youth Council and the report and everything that's happening in that space and the growth of it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cowley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to congratulate the committee on the Youth Week events that took place last week, and I went along to the Dubbo Youth Week celebrations, and to see the coming together of different cultures and the young people and the support that we had from the community for the events was just terrific. And to our young people, congratulations, and to the committee, congratulations as well.
Thank you. Any other debate, councillors? I'll just very quickly say that it was great to see a couple of our youth councillors at the events. They did a fantastic job. We've got some really good youth councillors there, and including young Brendan, who was doing some rapping down at the Wellington one on the Thursday. So the crowd loved it. It was great to see the kids involved. Thank you. Councillor Wells, right of reply to anything there?
I just agree with everything that's been said, and also wanted to congratulate Charmaine, one of the council employees who's put a lot of hard work into getting these events up and going, despite some of the potentially negative social media words. I think it was a really positive event, and I was very pleased to be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, I've now opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. We've got now item CCL 25/92, report of the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee meeting 8th of April 2025. The report, Councillor Butler is going to move that. We've save and accept the item. Councillor Butler. Moved by Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor Toynton. Thank you. Just read the save and accept bit out, please, Councillor Butler.
Yep. The report of the Infrastructure Planning and Environmental Committee meeting held on 8 April 2025 be adopted, saved and accept item. Save and accept item IPEC 2526, with such matter being dealt with separately.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Toynton. Yep. Councillor Butler, would you like to speak to any of that?
No, thank you.
Any other debate, councillors? There being none, we will put that. I've opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. Councillor Butler for item IPC 25/26, please. Just move that one, item IPC 25/26, and we'll deal with it.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to move for item IPEC 2526, please.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Toynton, thank you. Councillor Cowley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I declare a conflict of interest for this item. I live within a block of the proposed development and have discussed the development with a friend who lives adjacent. So while it is non-pecuniary, it is significant. So I shall leave the room.
Thank you. Turn right. Yep. Councillor Butler, would you like to speak to anything there?
No, thanks. No, I think it's self-explanatory to some degree.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just looking at that item, noting that that was in the previous council meeting or the Standing Committee meeting that that item or that DA was refused on the basis of point 3 there of granting consent to contravene Environmental Planning Assessment Act, and it also talks about development control plan hasn't been prepared for the land, but then we see in that addendum at CCL 2590 just a few minutes ago, as Councillor Ivey described, that seemingly DQ did a full 180 on their recommendation with respect to their interpretation. Am I right in saying then that the information we received in that addendum doesn't do anything to overturn any of those particular items that staff had come up with regards to the original motion, which was recommendation of declining that particular DA?
To the CEO.
Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the latest advice from the Q in respect to the Water Management Act doesn't change any of the reasons for refusal in the report that was considered by the Infrastructure Planning and Environment Committee.
Councillor Wright, that one answer that?
Yep, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Just a question. Does I presume conversation's been had with the proponent, and does the proponent understand that is the situation, that there are still outstanding issues that haven't been addressed, and therefore the application must be refused?
To the CEO.
Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the proponent's representative is aware that council is considering the report and is also aware that there is a number of items outstanding as well.
Thank you. That one right, Councillor Ivey? Yep, thank you. Any other questions, debate, councillors? Councillor Wright?
Yeah, just a further question on that one from Councillor Ivey, actually. Was it right? Did council staff meet with the proponent back there, I think, last Thursday week on site to discuss some of those issues outstanding? And was it a couple of weeks ago?
To the CEO.
Mr. Jennings. Noting we haven't got the staff in the room, but Mr. Jennings.
The last meeting we had with the proponent was in respect of a number of Mars Group applications. Probably about 2 weeks ago now. I can't remember the exact date, but I'm not aware of any meeting on site.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Mayor. So yes, there was myself, Director Infrastructure, Director Planning, meeting with Representative Mars Group Residential on more broader issues and specifics not relating to Miriam. Staff have previously met on a significant number of occasions with the staff of Mars Group to work through this DA.
Is that right? Councillor Wright? Yep, happy with that. Thank you. Any other questions or debate, councillors? There being none, we'll go back to the mover, Councillor Butler, for a right of reply to anything.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, I will now open the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. Could someone please let Councillor Cowley back into the room? Item CCL 25/93, report of the Culture and Community Committee meeting on the 8th of April 2025, moved by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wells, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only to say that it was good to see that the youth action plan's gone up on the website for a period of days, and it's an amazing youth development plan. There's been a whole lot of other things happening, but yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment or debate, councillors? There being none, I will open the electronic voting on that. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Motion carried unanimously. The next item is CCL 25/94, report of the Corporate Services Committee meeting 8th of April 2025. We've got a save and accept from here. Councillor Toynton, can you read out that? Oh, Councillor Richardson, do you have the wording for the save and accept? Moved by Councillor Richardson.
Yes, I do. So CSC 25/22, that the report of the Corporate Services Committee meeting held on the 8th of April be adopted. Save and accept item CSC 25/22 with such matter being dealt with separately.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Toynton. Thank you. Councillor Richardson, would you like to speak to that?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any other debate, councillors, on everything except CSC 25/22 to React Centre? There being none, we will put that to the vote. I've opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. That's just disappeared. I can't actually close off the voting because it's disappeared off my little screen, but that's carried unanimously. Yep, everyone did. That's carried unanimously. Oh, here we go. We're back up. Can you just press yours again, Councillor Richardson? Just put your hand up for 4. Thank you. Carried unanimously. We might be able to restart the voting. We can restart the voting on that one. Can everyone please cast their vote again? Thanking you. Councillor Dickerson, can you just press for or against again on the CSC meeting, please?
I've lost that now, Mr. Mayor. So I voted the first time, and now my voting block has gone. It's still showing. Yeah, so
just put your hand up for 4, please. If you're for, that's right. Take that as a 4. Carried unanimously. We'll make that carried unanimously, including Councillor Dickerson. Thank you. Now, Councillor Richardson, were you going to move the other report, the CSC 25/22? Is that update on the React Centre? Or Councillor Toynton, you move that one then. You've got.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to put an alternative that the CEO not sign the funding deed for the REACT until a list of complying council infrastructure projects, such as those currently listed in the draft budget, are provided to councillors for determination at the May Standing Committee meeting.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Richardson. I'll just write this down here. Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The REACT Centre in Wellington's a good idea, but shouldn't be paid for by the state and should be paid for by state and federal governments, not DRC ratepayers. We need to stick to core business and stay in our lane. Our job's to use the business case to lobby grants and companies to fund and build, not commit $11.25 million of ratepayers' funds to build it for multinational companies. We look at what the 3 other councils involved are doing with their $11.25 million, such as sewer and water upgrades and council-owned affordable housing, which is the case in Mudgee. I'm concerned that if we don't follow suit and use this money to make significant improvements to our infrastructure, then we may have to have a special rate variation to pay for things that we could have paid for with the $11.25 million. So rather than squander this money, we make the best use of it, and I think we just need to really consider everything that's on the table here before we rush at this like a bull at a gate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Toynton, can you just read out your motion again, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
The staff will type that down because we don't have that. So just if we could read it slowly so the team could type. Thank you.
So that the CEO not sign the funding deed for the REACT until a list of complying council infrastructure projects, such as those currently listed in the draft budget, are provided to councillors for determination at the May Standing Committee meeting.
Thank you. Now, the CEO's just got a couple of clarification points while that's being transcribed. The CEO.
just the word complying. I'm making an assumption that complying with the grant guidelines is what we're saying there is.
Yes.
And then projects, that's to consider alternatives to the REACT for putting forward to government is what we're wanting to consider at the May committee meetings.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Toynton, that was moved by you, seconded by Councillor Richardson. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, I think I've raised everything already.
Oh, you've already done that. And we clarified a couple of questions. Any further debate, councillors? Just get a bit of clarification there. Councillor Ivey, then Councillor Cowley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question for clarification. As I understood it, the Dubbo Regional Council made application to the funding body that was bringing forward some of the RES money, and that application is specifically referred to the funding for a REACT centre. So my question is, does this proposed motion or this negate that the sequence of events which I just described? Is that right?
Sounds like it'd be to approach them and see if you could change, does it, to the CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I took from the words of Councillor Toynton was that we would provide other projects that fit within the guidelines. And I'll just read the objectives are of that. I might get Ms. Brown to read out the objectives of that fund. So anything has to fit the parameters of which REACT does. So we previously had a council resolution that determined REACT was the priority. We've applied with that on that basis that it did fit the guidelines, and so this is asking for other considerations. And then I presume with intent alternative submissions to be made to government. But I'll just get Ms. Brown just on that point to part of your question, Councillor Ivey, about the objectives of the fund.
The Energy Co Legacy Infrastructure Fund objectives are to improve livability through greater access to health services, housing and accommodation, telecommunication connectivity and other public services and infrastructure, to increase community connection through improved access to quality sport, recreation and other community infrastructure, and to support regional economic development and diversification through enabling infrastructure projects.
Councillor Ivey, did that answer?
No,
supplementary?
Mr. Mayor. I asked whether or not the council had submitted an application for that funding on using the REACT Centre as the basis for that application. And in other words, I don't think we just applied for $11.2 million to spend on a range of projects which we're going to decide on later on. We were, as I understood it, we were understand it, but please correct me if I'm wrong. We were granted that $11.2 million specifically for the project which was put up, which was the REACT Centre.
So this would be for a variation, as I understand it from Councillor Toynton there, but to the CEO to expand on that, maybe.
So apologies, I thought I did answer that. There was a council resolution that was our priority project to apply for, and we did apply, and that's why we got the money. For that to be changed, we'd have to go through a process and consult with the government agency.
Much like the one we did before, the Heritage Plaza, those ones.
Yes, somewhat. They're the same project. We've changed scope or we actually withdrawn a project. So
Yeah.
We'd necessarily, the agency would have to approve a change from our application. I'm not quite sure that process, but depending on what council so resolves, we have to start that conversation with the agency.
Councillor Cowley, then Councillor Dickerson, I saw online somewhere there following Councillor Cowley.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And through you, could I just ask Ms. Brown to just clarify again and just go through it for us again and for those listening at home online. What exactly are the training and employment project pathways that the REACT Centre would invest into the community? What is the benefit to the community of this REACT Centre and training and education opportunities beyond the renewable energy zones?
CEO.
Ms. Brown.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the question. So REACT is The benefit is threefold. Firstly, providing workforce for the renewable energy zone, identifying the significant, working to fill the significant gaps that have been identified nationally around renewable energy projects, and giving regional people, young people and people looking to retrain, etc., the opportunity to participate in a renewable energy career. The second part of that is to support businesses to understand the opportunities around the projects and be able to provide employment opportunities that are indirectly supporting the renewable energy zone. And the third part is to raise awareness about the opportunities around renewable energy as career pathways. And we talked about, wouldn't it be great for a child at Wellington Primary School in Year 6 to understand themselves in a global renewable energy career? In identifying the types of training the REACT Centre will support, it is significantly around electricians, both general electricians and specialist electricians, engineering, and project management and general construction. And they are not only obviously of benefit to the renewable energy zone, although they will have an immediate benefit, they are also skills that are needed in every engine industry, or the significant engine industries that we have in this Dubbo local government area and across the Orana region: construction, mining and other extractive industries, as well as renewable energy. So we see it having some significant multiplier effects. It is designed to reduce the barriers for people with employment vulnerability of getting into the employment market for jobs that we know that are going to have some significant demand over the next 10 years, but also to provide the skilled to specialist training required to support those specific industries.
Councillor Cowley.
So supplementary question through you, Mr Mayor, to Ms Brown. So the life of the REACT Centre as it's envisaged is what? And how does the REACT Centre dovetail with existing or add to existing educational opportunities that exist within our LGA?
CEO. Ms Brown.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So we expect the peak for employment demand, particularly in the construction phase, to be 2028. But given that the Central West Orana Renewable Energy Zone is the first in New South Wales and there are others to come, we hope to be able to establish a statewide training facility that is able to support the energy zones that will come following us into the north and to the southwest also. So we anticipate there being demand for the services offered by REACT well into the future. And the second part of your question
relates to the addition to or dovetailing with existing education and
so
training opportunities.
We have already commenced conversations with the New South Wales government agencies that look out for education and training and skills development across New South Wales. We've had really good conversations with New South Wales TAFE, who obviously play a significant role, particularly around apprentice pipelines, but also some of the non-government registered training organisations who would be coming in to provide that skilled to specialist. So those conversations have commenced, reasonably well established. There are, we have spoken about the ability to start doing REACT style training to try, test and learn and get the concepts and the pathways right ahead of the centre being built. And some of those projects are to get underway within the next weeks and months.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, look, I'm just after a bit of clarification. So if we've done a...
keep going.
If we've done an application for funding specifically for this REACT Centre, and now we want to change our minds of what we use the money for, are we at risk of losing this money altogether? Can we just put in a funding application for something, get it approved, and then say, well, now we're approved, we don't want it for that, we want to change our minds and put it to something else?
It's not approved until we sign the deed. Is that correct, CEO?
Well, it's not a contract for use. There was a deadline to apply, so we had to apply like a normal grant. It's a little bit different in terms of each local government area was quarantined an amount, each local government area, and indeed each region. So even the Upper Hunter couldn't apply as an LGA. They had to only apply for projects that were in the RES footprint. So they had restrictions. We aren't, because the vast majority of our LGA is in the RES. So each RES impacted LGA or part thereof was allocated $11.25 million, but there was a formal application process. What that means in terms of changing direction, what have you, I'm not sure, to be frank. Again, we'd have to have a conversation with the agency.
Councillor Ryan, further?
Yeah, look, I'm just a bit concerned that that was our whole idea and the application reason. I'm just worried that they'll turn around and say to us, well, you know, this is what you wanted in the first place. Now you're changing your mind. They might scrap us altogether. That's all.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Dickerson online, who I forgot earlier, I apologise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've just got some questions first, and some have been asked by some other councillors already, but certainly I'd like to ask CEO along the lines where Councillor Ryan was going in terms of this is something that we'd already made a decision on and we made an application, and I'm a little bit confused because
Oh, we've lost him. Would you
from
be
the
able
government.
to... We lost you for a second there, Councillor Dickerson. You're a little concerned and then it froze.
That's how concerned I was. The internet froze on me, Mr. Mayor. I was a little concerned that we had a media release that had an announcement that we welcome the 11.25 million, and I haven't got it in front of me, but I actually thought our Deputy Mayor was in the photo with the Minister Penny Sharp and the Minister Tara Moriarty in that photo talking about how exciting this was. We made the application, we've been approved. Seems like it's already done. I'm a bit confused. So I'd just like some clarity from the CEO, if that's possible, about how we would even go about stopping this process now, given the fact that we've done the application, it's been approved, the announcement's there, we've got the photos taken. It all seems like it's too far gone, surely, to then go back to start again and then go to May. I know the Minister's very keen, and calling it a variation, well, we know how well that went the last time someone tried to call for a variation. So I'd just like a bit of clarity from the CEO, if that's possible, please, Mr. Mayor.
The CEO noting that the last time someone called for a variation, one minister said to approve it and the other minister didn't.
In terms of process, it's unclear. There's not. We had a deadline. We have to apply. It's a little bit different. If this was a normal grant round, I'll almost guarantee that you wouldn't be able to apply again. So there'd be a new application. This has got a point of difference in the fact that some monies are quarantined for LGAs. Short answer. So the deed, and I might throw to Ms. Brown on the negotiations about the deed, because it has been approved as a project, and the deed is dropping down to a finer grain level of milestones, is my understanding. But Ms. Brown will be across that discussion just to provide that clarity on what stage the grant is up to.
Through you, yes, the Minister has made the public announcement. The photo ops have happened. We have put out a media release welcoming the investment. We have submitted all of our milestone activity and deadline, and the next step is to receive the funding grant for signing.
Councillor Dickerson, does that answer that one? Here he
Yes,
is.
it does, and it does seem to me that it is all too late. So I'll make my debate points now, Mr. Mayor. I've asked my questions. Thank you. So to me, we've gone through an exhaustive process, and this is a project that was more visionary than the other couple of projects that the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Toynton, mentioned in terms of Coonabarabran or Mid-Western Regional Council or Warrumbungle Shire Council, in terms of some sewer upgrades or some affordable housing. One of the great things I thought about the REACT Centre was that this was visionary, but more than that, it was a multiplier. So if we upgrade our sewer, for example, use money, $11.25 million to upgrade the sewer, then that would help us grow as a community, but it's not going to accelerate that and not going to inject a lot of money into our economy. The REACT Centre, the fantastic thing about this is that this has the potential to be a game changer for Wellington, fundamentally change the economy of Wellington. And that to me is significant. Fundamentally change the lives of people in and around Wellington. We can have training. We can have people come from other regions that are doing renewable energy upgrades, which we know will go on for the next 2 decades, and have training, have a visitor centre that will have people explore and be educated about renewable energy. I just think the opportunity here to fundamentally change the economy of Wellington is here right now. And we've gone through all the steps already. We're at the point now that we just need to keep proceeding. So I think it would be a backward step. And I actually think it would make us look silly in government terms that we've gone this far down and then we get to the point where we say, no, we've changed our mind now. We've got the money, everything's done. We've had the photos taken, but we're now going to go back and start again. I think that would make us look like a completely disorganised council, not one that's progressive and visionary, one that's looking backwards and really a bit disorganised. It might be a moot point as well, and I won't ask this question as such, it does sound like a question, but we granted our CEO power of attorney, so the CEO doesn't need to go forward and actually get permission for something that's already resolved by council. So I'm not even sure that we need to go through and give permission for the CEO to sign, because you'll remember many months ago we gave power of attorney and we didn't need a report from the CEO on signatures where the power of attorney was used. So this may well be something the CEO doesn't need our permission to do, because it's already the council resolution to go forward with this. But if it is stopped now at the 11th hour, I think that would be a retrograde step for Wellington people, a retrograde step for our community, a retrograde step for some of our low socioeconomic people who will see huge opportunities for jobs around the renewable energy zone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Cowley.
Mr. Mayor, on picking up on what Councillor Dickerson just said, I fear not only the way Dubbo Regional Council will look if we back out on this now, but we have just finished talking about our youth action plan and our young people and the opportunities for young people in our local government area and across the region. How on earth could any of us consider backing out of something, as to borrow Councillor Dickerson's word, visionary, as an education and training opportunity, particularly in Wellington? We owe it to young people to see this through. I just urge us all to not to consider pulling the pin on it for the sake of our youngsters.
Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury. Did I see you nod? No. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm sort of struggling to support this one as well. Councillor Toynton mentioned that the council running at a bull at a gate and making rash decisions. But can somebody maybe through you, Mr. Mayor, when did council commence work on this REACT Centre and feasibility study? I don't think we started it yesterday.
The CEO.
If you'll give us a moment, Ms. Brown, are you ready? There was detail of previous resolutions in the committee meeting report itself, so I'll just dive back there. I'll give Ms. Brown a moment to gather those. But certainly it was a business case. It was part funded by renewable proponents for different businesses, which is unusual in itself to shake that down. So it has been, and it did stack up with the consultants and a genuine treasury-based business case. So it certainly was well considered, and was at that time council's priority as well. Ms. Brown, still looking through the previous report, but it is in the minutes. Thank you, Councillor. Ms. Brown, yep.
Through you, yes, the previous paper did list all the resolutions to date. From memory, it started back in 2023, well before my time. There was an initial feasibility study to kind of really scope it out, and there were, a dozen sites on the table, sort of sifted through, and then we went to a stage 2 feasibility study, which the CEO has indicated was enthusiastically supported by some of the key proponents through a financial contribution to that business case. And so this has been going for, coming up to 2 years now, through a number of feasibility and detailed business cases to get it to the point where the previous council endorsed it as our project for the Legacy Infrastructure Fund.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, that's good. I think they were in that report. I just wanted you to tell me out loud. So there's been a multiple stop go points on this, and we're at the pointy end now. I just want to know also. We've had some pretty strong support for this from Squadron Energy, Tilt Renewables, AceRes, and Lightsource BP. They all participated in this case development as well. I'm just wondering what other proponents or maybe what other bodies does council need to go back on and have this discussion that we potentially might be going to be backflip on an agreement that we've made, or even backflip on financial commitments that other people have made on this as well. Anyone else we need to consult with?
CEO.
The financial contributions were just for that feasibility study, so there's nothing that we would return in that regard. I'll just point out that the logic of the proponents funding that is, for example, Squadron can still send people to Victoria to learn how to work on wind turbines. So that was their logic about having a local supply for a workforce. But Ms. Brown, do you have any other comments in that regard?
Through you, I guess probably the point that I made earlier about the discussions, very positive and enthusiastic discussions that we've had with the skills and training arms of the New South Wales government, and the opportunity to really, not only through React, but other players in around Wellington who are deliverers of training, particularly to vulnerable people, to make it a really strong precinct for Wellington. So those conversations have had reasonable traction to date. Nothing is formal and signed, but yes, we have had really positive conversations along those lines.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, further.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'll just finish with one point then that, and look, there's plenty of points been raised already here anyway. Look, we've had multiple people talk about for years about the WA region and all regions, I suppose, having skill shortages, and a number of people say, well, what are council doing about it? This is a perfect example as to what council can do about it. It is spending some ratepayers' money to inject into a project such as this, and accompanied very generously by a number of proponents and the state government. So this is a great opportunity for us to do something about this skill shortage and answer that question that community's been asking. So thanks.
Thank you. Further, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
I think I just asked questions before, so I can just make a comment now.
Yep.
Just again reiterating the importance of this facility to Wellington. It stands to be a game changer. You know, we've got a very we've got a low socioeconomic group. We've got a lot of people who are untrained. We've got a tremendous pool of people there who are capable of being trained. What we've got to do is provide a local facility whereby they can be trained. If you say to a lot of the local people, oh, okay, you can do it, come to Dubbo to TAFE, that's a bit of a break. If you say go to Bathurst, that's a much bigger break. If you say go up to Morn Street and go to the TAFE there, you can still live at home while you're training. I think we have got a tremendous opportunity to make a real difference to the whole social fabric of Wellington. The fact that we're now saying, oh, well, no, hang on, let's just think about that. I think I wonder what the motive is for that. We've got a fantastic project here that's been well researched. As Ms. Brown said, it's been well received by government people. It's been funded by, the initial feasibility study's been funded by external sources, and I do think we would have to go back to them and apologise for doing a backflip. I don't think it's just a matter of, oh, they can go off to Victoria to be trained. We would have to fundamentally apologise to those people for putting up a project, asking them to help fund it, and then saying, oh, well, everything came out in favour of it, but we've just changed our mind because at the last council meeting we voted it down. I mean, come on, let's just be serious. Let's be not try to put renewable energy down. Let's use some of the opportunities that it's generating, and let's get on and do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
I guess just a question as opposed to a comment. So I'm a little bit unsure of what's going on in the sense that I seem to be hearing that we've obtained $11.25 million in funding. So my clarification is, what source are we talking like? I'm getting the understanding that the ratepayer is paying for this $11 million, not the state or something like that. So if there could be a clarification on where is this 11.25 exactly coming from? Because I sort of thought initially it was government funding, but now I've heard people say, oh, the ratepayer. So I'm somewhat unsure. So
Thank
someone
you.
could clarify.
So there was 4 LGAs that got this front-loaded money from the state government. Correct me if I'm wrong, CEO. 11.25 each for Dubbo Regional, Warrumbungle Shire, Upper Hunter, and Mid-Western Regional. And what the director read out before was that you could basically choose where you wanted to spend the money. So some spent it on sewer and water upgrades, a bridge, footpath, livability, aged care sort of centre, independent living, or a essential worker accommodation, affordable essential worker accommodation, or a REACT centre. So that's where it is. So it's state government funding, but basically councils were guaranteed it and get to choose according to the criteria where it goes. Is that correct? State government to council.
Right.
Further?
Yeah, well, sorry, to Mr. Wright's comment, he was Councillor Wright. Sorry, it was something about ratepayers. You talked about ratepayers. This is why I'm getting confused, because I'm hearing state government, but then I'm hearing in the discussion ratepayer. So this is why my confusion. So if we could.
So it's the 11.25 comes from the state to the council, and the council applied in inverted commas for where they want it to go. Is that a question to Councillor Wright? Councillor, if it was Councillor Wright?
Yeah, happy to provide just a point of clarity there just suggesting that yes, the money does come to council. It's council's money, which in effect is ratepayers' money, as to what we do with that. So, and that's just that point of clarity. Yeah.
Councillor Butler, further?
Just wondering if Ms. Brown would mind repeating the compliance criteria. There was 3, I think. Would you please read that again?
The CEO.
Yep, Ms. Brown.
So these are the objectives of the Legacy Infrastructure Fund through Energy Co. Improve livability through greater access to health services, housing and accommodation, telecommunication, connectivity and other public services and infrastructure, to increase community connection through improved access.
Sorry, Ms. Brown, could we have that a bit slower?
Sorry.
Sorry, I mean, it's very well read.
Improve livability through greater, and we can certainly provide these to you also. Improve livability through greater access to health services, housing and accommodation, telecommunication, connectivity and other public services and infrastructure. Increase community connection through improved access to quality sport, recreation and other community infrastructure. And support regional economic development and diversification through enabling infrastructure projects.
Councillor Butler, anything further?
Just to you, Mr. Mayor, you was also in the course of the discussion, you mentioned there was 3 other councils, is that right? So four including us.
4 in total, yep.
Warrumbungle's
Mid-Western, Upper Hunter.
Yep. And you in that discussion, you mentioned that they had used this money for some of those other that Ms. Brown pointed out. Are you able to elaborate a bit more on that for me? I'm trying to see what the options might be if Councillor Taunton's motion.
It was Mid-Western used theirs for affordable essential worker accommodation. They've got enough money to build 5 units there, houses. Upper Hunter putting theirs into a sewer plant, and Warrumbungle's sewer and water, and I think Upper Hunter was also a supported living accommodation at Dunedoo, and Upper Hunter was also a bridge, footpath and landscaping from memory. That's all right. CEO's got it here, if there's anything further to add.
Yep, just to go through that list, just reading straight off EnergyCo's website. So the REACT training facility for Dubbo, Mid-Western was key worker housing construction. Upper Hunter was Casillas sewage treatment and the Casillas footbridge, pathways and landscaping. Just to be clear, they're very restricted. They can't put projects as close as Merriwall. It's got to be Casillas because that's the part that's in the res. hence that focus. Warren Bungles is Dunedoo Sullivan Street Independent Living Project. Coolar Sewage Treatment Plant, Dunedoo Sewage Treatment Plant, Dunedoo Water Supply, Coolar Water Supply. I'll probably add they've never been able to, if you read the Productivity Commission's report on local water utilities, all small councils, and Dubbo's not, we're considered a large water utility, they aren't able to fund their capital work. So that would make sense from a small council perspective, the inability to fund, so they've got this money to fund that type of infrastructure.
Councillor Butler, further?
Yeah, I've got lots of questions for you. Yes, so look, I guess now that Councillor Toyton's brought it up, would the CEO have an idea as to? Let me just backtrack a bit. My understanding is that the Wellington sewerage infrastructure is approaching end of life. Would that be, or something like that?
The CEO.
In an assessment, and Mr. Ryan could probably provide more technical detail, but in an assessment where we have cameras go through pipes to inspection, the contractor who we employed described Wellington sewerage pipes in the residential area as some of the worst they've ever seen. So it's probably some of it beyond the end of its useful life. It's already hit there some time. But I'll just put that capital funding for our water projects, we have our price on our water and sewer so that we can fund our renewal and capital works. Unlike our general fund, water and sewer in Dubbo, because we've got scale, we can fund our capital works. Mr. Ryan, do you want to make you comfortable with that description? Yeah. So that's a point of difference to us as a large water utility versus the smaller ones that don't have that scale of customer that then they can fund their capital works.
Councillor Butler, anything further?
Yes, again, this may be directed to Mr. Ryan then, perhaps. What would the cost of upgrading the Wellington sewage infrastructure, I mean, I obviously know exact figures, but just a ballpark, just to understand what that, I have no idea how much that would cost. So I just want a ballpark. Doesn't have to be something
CEO.
They'll hold you to.
CEO.
Mr. Ryan, best estimates?
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know. I really don't know. I'd have to take that on notice to look at our condition survey across the whole network to then work out what a current replacement cost would be for that. But yeah, I'd be pulling a number out of the air to try and give you a number at this point in time.
Could it be in the order of 11 million?
To the CEO.
Sorry.
So I guess the point of difference between, so we're talking pipes in the reticulation network. It's not the treatment plants, which is what the other councils are. So our Wellington sewage treatment plant, we went for a tour with our staff there just the other day. There isn't that constraint on capability or capacity at Wellington. And similarly with the water treatment plant, we don't have that constraint. So it is a genuine asset renewal of pipes in the ground. It may well struggle, that type of project in our circumstance. I think it would struggle to meet that particular project, I hasten to add. So replacing clapped out sewage pipes in a residential area with pipes to service the same residential area, I think would struggle to meet the criteria of this grant program. But it is very specific, your question, therefore it's a very specific answer.
Councillor Butler, further?
I'm guessing I'm just, to some degree, wondering whether let's put it this way. I'm certainly all for a training centre, and particularly as Ms Brown mentioned, it is in regards to electrical skill sets, which is very transportable or transferable. So I think that's a great idea. My understanding, and maybe Councillor Toynton might speak to this, is my understanding is what he's trying to, I think, say is that we should seek pathways where the corporates that benefit from our res zone quite dramatically, as Councillor Ivey pointed out, should be perhaps more responsible for building such a structure, in which case we could redirect those funds to the livability, health services, telecommunications and sport that were also in that compliance suite, as it were. Maybe Councillor Toynton, would that be something? Is that okay? To ask?
Noting that Councillor Toynton doesn't have to answer, but Councillor
yeah.
Toynton, if you wish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will answer. So that's what the motion that I've put forward aims to achieve, is to say, look, if this is such a great training facility for these people that are using it, it's like, well, their companies are able to say, do we send someone to Victoria to train, or do we train them in Wellington where majority of these projects are? So it'd make more sense for them to fund this differently rather than saying, oh, here's some money for the council, but we want you to spend it entirely on us rather than benefiting your whole LGA. So that's what my alternative aims to achieve, is to just look at every option to say, how can we get the very best value for money for everyone in our LGA who we, as it's on the wall there, sign an oath or an affirmation to do the very best by our residents. This is the way of doing it, to say, let's not just take this money and say, okay, yeah, we applied for a res, but for a REACT centre, if we can make better use of it, if we were aware that it wasn't a competitive process, as may have been the case, that this is something that we could really pursue and say, well, that money's there, or it's coming, unless, as Councillor Dickinson pointed out, the photos were taken with two ministers, one of which we all know at the last time that promised money with the sports hub, where it went bye-byes. So we've got a good crack at making this work, but we need to make sure we do it properly. So hopefully we can get some support for my motion to say nothing's set in stone at the moment. Let's pursue our options, and if they say, okay, it's do or die, well, then we can say, okay, well, begrudgingly stick it back into the REACT. So there's nothing lost, nothing pulled the pin on this motion. We don't stand to lose anything. We stand to either explore our options or say, no, you have to spend it on this. In that case, we spend it on that. So we're not going to lose anything by supporting this motion.
Does that answer the question, Councillor Butler?
Sorry. Yes, I think, thank you, Councillor Toynton, for that response. So I'm gathering from what he's saying is that we would be able to do both. We'll be able to have a REACT centre and also support critical infrastructure and other projects according to the guidelines. So in that sense, I think I would probably support Councillor Toynton's motion, because what I see, if what Councillor Toynton is correct in saying, we could actually have a double win. We could have both a training centre and also a, how would you call it, a wonderful boost to the infrastructure for Wellington and other areas, or perhaps we could defer things so that we could discuss some of the other options. So that might be a possibility. Is this a point where I could possibly foreshadow a motion should Councillor Toynton's be defeated?
Yes, you can foreshadow a motion any time.
Is it? Yep.
Yep.
So as long as Councillor Toynton's agreeable, I'm assuming.
You can just foreshadow it yourself. You don't need his
Yep.
imprimatur.
Okay, so I'd like to foreshadow, should Councillor Toynton's motion be defeated, that we as a council would consider, well, first of all, to defer for further discussion the other areas of compliance that we could also legitimately use or encourage, that we could seek pathways to encourage industry and state, or industry particularly, I should say, let me say it again, seek pathways to encourage industry to fund the training centre, as it would be primarily for their benefit. They would be one of the primary benefits. So is that okay? Is that?
Well, that's your foreshadowed motion,
Yeah,
so you've foreshadowed it.
You want
Clarification for the CEO.
Just in terms of the code of meeting practice, you need to make it very distinct from a motion that was just defeated. So you can't have this different words but achieving the same thing as one that was just defeated. You'd have to. There's a whole. So I'd have to work with you on your wording as to what you want to achieve to make sure it wasn't just replicating a motion that was just defeated that way. Yep. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Righto, thank you. Thanks for that foreshadowed motion, Councillor Butler. Any further debate, councillors? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I could not support both of the motion, Councillor Taunton and Councillor Butler, because I think Councillor Cowley has well mentioned this project is really need for the Wellington, and Wellington deserve this facilities long time. It's long waiting project, and we have seen previously if we defer or if we wait for a project, what gonna cost is blow up the cost, and then minister take the money from the region. So we don't want to repeat that thing happen. So we really act this quickly and make this happen sooner. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Dickerson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a question. Obviously, I've already entered the debate.
Mhm.
I would just like to ask if the CEO or the relevant director could just clarify one part of the funding, and it's probably more relating to what Councillor Butler was asking. And I didn't mention it during my debate because it was from the confidential papers 2 weeks ago, so I'm not sure if this can be mentioned, which is why I throw it to the CEO. In the Corporate Services Committee, at the top of page 15, there were 2 bullet.
Oh, he's frozen just when we got to the good bit. Councillor Dickerson, there was 2, we lost you there, you froze. There was 2 bullet points.
2 bullet points at the top of page 15 of the Corporate Service Committee last week or 2 weeks ago, but that was in the confidential component of the meeting. So happy for the CEO to make a decision on that, but that was very explicit in where the funding was coming from for the REACT Centre. So I would just ask the question if it was possible for the CEO to read those 2 bullet points out to clarify where this funding is coming from for the REACT Centre as currently proposed. Thank you.
We'll just get a ruling on that and find the page number. Was it page 15? I think.
Yes, it was page 15 from the Corporate Service Committee. Top of page 15, there were 2 bullet points there in the confidential papers from 2 weeks ago.
To the CEO.
Yeah, and you'll recall that what was the actual what was passed, that we were only wanting to keep what was confidential necessarily covered by commercial in confidence, not the broader business case. So we did call that out. So I'm very comfortable. You can talk about, you don't talk about land options and things like that, but the other parts of the business case are able to be described as per the recommendation from the committee. So what you're talking about there is the resourcing implications part. Councillor Dickerson, the cost of stage 1 of the REACT Centre will be funded in total by the Legacy Infrastructure Fund grant. Stage 2 will be secured from the same source or through Australian government grant opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that was just that question, just to clarify that funding so that it was entirely funded from state government and stage 2 from state or federal government, just to clarify those points from our confidential business papers 2 weeks ago.
Further debate, councillors? I'll just quickly say something before we go back to the mover. Look, I'll support Councillor Taunton's motion here because it really shouldn't be up to ratepayers to fund a training centre for multinational renewable energy companies that half of them probably don't pay tax here anyway. But I'm not against the REACT. I think it'd be great. And I've spent a bit of time just now Googling where other ones are around the country and how they are funded. And they're mostly funded by industry, the state and federal governments, whereas this, it's money that comes from the state government, but it's a sort of like a different one. We've guaranteed the money. It's just what we wanted to spend it on. So the REACT is a great project, but unfortunately in the business case, there was no commitment that it'd be mostly or only Wellington people or people around the Wellington area, WLGA, getting trained there. So the way I see it from what Councillor Taunton's described so far, that the next correct step for council would be, right, we've got this business case. We don't owe anyone an apology, as Councillor Ivey asserted. The next step with this business case would be for council to then approach the state government and TAFE New South Wales and the federal government and also the industry who would train their workers there and hit them up to supply the $11.25 million to make it a reality. It'll be great, but I just have some concerns over the use of the money, where really we could pay that off something that ratepayers will actually, the whole rate base will get a benefit from, whereas we could put it into something in the Wellington area. We know we've got to close the tip. I think Mumble Water Plant needs an upgrade. There's sewer and water. We've seen what other councils did. Councillor Taunton was actually there when the announcement was made, so he had a bit of a early look at it. But we got the business case 2 weeks ago, and from memory that was done like 5.5 months ago. It's a shame that we didn't get it then to have a bit of a look at. But the fact that the training positions aren't really reserved for Wellington locals is one of my concerns. But as a council, I say we could probably supply a block of land and say to the government and or both governments and the companies, we've got a block of land for you. You come and build it here, and they're in business. That's where I see council's real role here, not actually putting up what is effectively ratepayer funds, because we could have spent it on anything that we actually wanted. And we know how many backpackers work on these different projects. So, like I said, it's a good project, but until the deed's actually signed, we're not fully committed to it. The government might come back and say, no, you're doing it, and that's all right. That's where we're up to. But there may be a little chance, there may not be, who knows, but we won't find out if we don't ask. But I don't see any apology needed to anyone, and I think that it really should be funded by the federal and state government and industry, not by effectively WA ratepayers. It would be an indulgence for us to use ratepayer funds for that. Great project, just wrong source of money, and we've got a real role in pushing for that money to come from state government, federal government and industry. And as for the stage 2, that education centre, that terrifies me. The cost, I won't say what it is because it was in the confidential case, but councillors would have read that, and I'm very dubious as to the figures there of how many people would actually go to learn about Renewable Energy Discovery Centre. I just can't see that being a goer, and I see that being a huge cost potentially to ratepayers in the future. So stage 1, great. Not so sure about that Discovery Centre whatsoever. Back to the mover of the motion, Councillor Taunton, for anything said there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So most of everything that can be said has been said. I think you've just topped on the points. We are not going to lose this money by exploring our options. All we're doing is seeing if there's a better way of doing this. And as the Mayor has just pointed out, and as I've said, if this motion changes nothing, gives us a bit more leverage in our position to do the right thing by our residents and of our LGA. If the government comes back to us and says, no, we're not going to approve a variation, you either spend it entirely on this REACT Centre or you're not getting it, well then that's the proverbial gun to our head that we have to do. But we as councillors should endorse checking every option that we can to make sure we get the very best value for money. So I encourage my fellow councillors to support this motion, knowing they have nothing to lose. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, I will open the voting on Councillor Taunton's motion. Please cast your votes yes or no electronically. Councillors, I'll now close the voting. Motion lost 4 votes to 7. We now need to move the previous foreshadowed motion. Councillor Butler. Yep, so now's where you move that. Councillor Butler.
Yes, okay. Just a quick question to the CEO.
There we go.
Did we work out a wording that didn't conflict with Councillor Taunton?
Well, I'll just read out the code of meeting practice if I could, Mr. Mayor. So it's under 10.11. You can't have a direct negative of the motion that was lost because that's just reiterating the previous debate. Sorry, direct. If you can't have the same thing bowled up. So it's so you'll need to think, and the chair is obliged to rule that out. So you'll need to think and you were trying to achieve a similar perspective, and I wasn't clear how we could shape that. So. If perhaps you could explain the outcome you're after, and we could work on the words there as, I guess, a draft draft motion if we could, and we can work on the words, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Butler.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, CEO. All right. So the first point would be to defer, which is not what Councillor Twining was after. So the first part would be to defer a discussion. Is that okay?
You got those words?
To consider the other options that were compliant.
That'd be pretty similar to what it is.
Through Mr. Mayor, I think you'd be obliged to rule that out because it was deferring this till.
Okay, so
there was a
meeting.
specific committee
Right.
meeting, so
Okay,
it was deferred.
that the council seek pathways to encourage industry and to fund the training centres. Would that be considered too similar?
Yep. CEO.
So what you would be doing. Go back to where we're what the current state, just to answer that question. So you could put that up as a motion, and it gets approved. That doesn't counteract the fact that we have a grant money. Like, I'm still empowered by previous resolutions to, because we've applied for it, we've been awarded it, and then I would sign off on that deed. That would add something else where we're going to chase, and we'd probably do that anyway, but that would formally request the staff to then chase external funding in addition to the grant funding. That's what that would mean.
But just to clarify, if we did say we got $6 million worth of industry funding, then we'd give that $6 million back to the state government as
then
unspent grant money potentially.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that will be the variation. We're still achieving the objectives of the grant, but we've actually got external money in that then frees up. We'd apply to spend our money on something else. Yep. So you would consider what you just said in conjunction with the successful grant. That may be an outcome, as Mr. Mayor said. That's an unknown.
Okay.
So approach, just give you a bit of wording, maybe approach industry, state and federal governments to contribute as they've done in other renewable energy training centres.
Yep, okay. I like that.
Righto, better just get that wording done.
Yes. At the end of the day, we want to get the best outcome for our ratepayers, for sure. So
Righto, hang on, just wait up till we get this wording and then we'll be full noise on...
Mr. Mayor, may I be so bold as to suggest that Councillor Butler could possibly move the points from the business paper and then just add his point there on as an extra point, so that we continue on with the existing motion that's printed in the papers, and then if the pursuing of extra grant funding is what Councillor Butler tries to achieve, then we can do it all in one motion rather than have two motions.
I'll ask Councillor Butler. So, Councillor Butler, we don't have a motion on the... Well, we've got your foreshadowed motion, but Councillor Dickerson has suggested that you move the points 1 and 2 from the previous committee meeting about the report be noted, that elements of a business case not deemed confidential be published, etc. And then your one is point 3. You're under no obligation to do that, but up to you.
Yep.
Feel free not to.
So, am I? Oh, I'm still on. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. So, are you able to read out the
just
new-
pass what I.
Oh, yeah. Go
Yep.
on.
So what I sort of wordsmithed a bit to say that council target other levels of government and the renewable industry to contribute funding for a renewables training facility.
All right. Yeah. That I like that. Yep. And just the other thing is, and maybe this is too similar to Councillor Twin's, that we could consider other ways of spending the 11.2. That's still going too far that way?
That'd be the same, wouldn't
That'd be
it?
the same. Okay. So we'll just leave it at the approach then.
CEO?
So what you could do is somewhat to the hypothetical situation Mr. Mayor raised, that should other external funding be made available, that council put forward other projects put forward a variation request for other projects to be funded. So if that makes sense. So if we are successful in getting, we'll pick a number out of 11.25, a proportion thereof from external parties, federal government, for example, then we could realise those that saving to other projects of council. So if you're comfortable with that as that line.
Well, I'm thinking in particular, like a number of residents have come to me about Scabbing Flat Bridge and things like that would be important projects. So
sure.
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable with that, Mr. Mayor, I might just need a moment if we
we'll just get the wording.
pause with my governance team. So we would have 1 and 2, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Butler, move point 1 and 2 and tack yours on as point 3.
Oh, so that okay. So
Will
that
that
would
be all right?
work then.
Yep.
You're all happy with that?
So I'll just get the wording for point 3
alright.
for clarity, Mr
Yep.
Mayor.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, thanks. Yeah.
And we'll tell everyone.
And if I could have a printout, is that all right?
Might come around as an email.
Mr Mayor, I'll just read out if I could. So 1 and 2 as per the recommendation from the committees. Then a new number 3, and hopefully I've got your sentiment right in the wording or we have here, Councillor Butler. The council target other levels of government and industry and the renewables industry for funding for the Renewables Training Centre, and that, if successful, council put forward a variation to allocate project savings to other priority projects.
Thank you very much. Happy with that, Councillor Butler? Okay, a seconder for that. Councillor Richardson, thank you. Councillor Butler, speak to your motion at all?
All right. Yes. So thank you, one and all. Look, much appreciated. Much thanks for helping me with that. Okay. So I would like to think that given the fact that other councils, as the mayor explained earlier, have been able to successfully use their money for legacy projects, and that I think essentially it is the overall duty, responsibility, whatever you want to call that, of the industry itself to provide the means or a partial means, perhaps, to the training of the people for its workforce. So it is self-evidently beneficial to the corporates who are benefiting from the res zone, that they would obviously benefit from not having to send people to Melbourne or wherever else they would go. Following in line with the other REACT centres that we've talked about that have also been funded by the vested interests, shall we call them, of the corporates. And I would like to suggest that we should at least explore the possibility of, given that we have some legacy projects that are needing attention, that we could explore those options that the others have also explored, and I believe successfully, in order to get the best value for our money and to obviously, maybe you could call it get more bang for one's buck, such that Wellington particularly will benefit. The aim is that we will likely get both, that we could have the training centre, which is a great idea and a visionary idea as has been reiterated, and that we could also get some legacy. I mentioned before something like Scabbing Flat Bridge could be helped, or other, the sewerage, for instance, in Wellington, which is beyond use by date. And I think we should at least explore this option to further the ability of this funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through you, Mr. Mayor, to clarity, if we pass this motion, is that hold CEO to sign, holding the CEO to sign the deed, or okay? Thank you.
Yep, that's right. Councillor Ryan.
Oh, sorry. Just a bit of clarification. So I see what people are saying. If we want to spend this money elsewhere, and a lot of people are saying, you know, there's a lot of things that can happen in Wellington. Is there a guarantee that that money will be spent in Wellington? Or will it be then, oh no, we've decided that this in Dubbo or this in somewhere else is more needed. So at the moment, Wellington's looking like we're going to finally get something, and we're about to lose it. But is there a guarantee that we're going to get anything at all?
You could get around that by just adding Wellington in and around Wellington to your point 3, I think, Councillor Butler.
Yeah,
If
I'd
the
be willing to do
seconder-
that. To Mr. Councillor Ryan's point, I think that's a very valid point. So if I could add Wellington, that would be great. Yep.
The CEO is just going to read that, and we'll check with the seconder.
So we just put in Wellington at the end. So it would read that council target other levels of government and the renewables industry for funding for renewables training centre, and that, if successful, council put forward a variation to allocate project savings to other priority projects in Wellington.
Right. The seconder? Was that Councillor Richardson? Happy with that as the seconder?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question then. So I'm guessing there's, look, I've got all confidence anyway that staff do a wonderful job of trying to pursue grants from state and federal governments at any opportunity. But what sort of time frame or extension of time frame would this put towards the commencement of this type of project if we need to press pause until we go back and renegotiate either with proponents or find public money instead of private money instead of public money, and then go back with a variation to reallocate money to another project? And there's some timeframes involved here, I guess. And also maybe when does this project, when is it required to start as well with regards to funding grants, etc.?
The CEO
Ms.
to
Brown.
Ms. Brown.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the timelines that we've submitted and the milestone payments obviously match to the timeline. We're due to start on the 1st of June with this project. I would see it would take quite some time to either respond to a competitive grant process or advocate for an additional grant outside a competitive grant process to contribute to this project. So it would potentially be that the project would roll, and then if we didn't need to spend the grant money, that would be then when we would be able to negotiate because we'd received additional income to achieve the same activity, then that's when we'd have the opportunity to renegotiate the funding deed to put the money to an additional project. So I can't, if the council was of the mind that we can continue on that basis, we start the project, seek opportunities for additional funding, that those would replace future milestones against activity that we wouldn't need to spend this grant on.
So there's no delay in that. It's just try and get some money to offset it. Anything further? Councillor Ivey was twitching.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll vote against this motion. I understand its intent, and I don't absolutely disagree with its intent. But I just think we're in a situation now where we have this money approved. We have got some milestones in place. We've got the whole infrastructure within council sort of ready to implement it. I don't believe that if we then it becomes publicly known that, oh, we're really looking for some other funding from industry, that there's not going to be a whole lot of uncertainty out there. And I think if I were a renewable proponent, I'd say, hang on, you've already got the money. Why are you actually coming back to us to ask for it? No, thanks very much. No, go away. And judging by the proponents' past actions, Canadian Solar or Lightsource BP, and trying to help them get them to contribute some to the community funds, we don't have much success there. So I really do believe that we should proceed on what we've got with items 1 and 2. Look, if we want to now then subsequently apply to federal government and state government and renewables for other specific projects that would help the Wellington area, then that's fantastic. Let's do that. Again, if I was a proponent and someone said to me the argument, oh, you're the ones getting the benefit if we do this, if I were a proponent, I would say, hang on. The people getting the training, the qualifications, getting the opportunities are really getting the benefit. So really that education has been a responsibility of the state and federal governments for years now, including the TAFE. Let's not try to change that world. Let's go with what we've got and let's get on with it. Thank you.
Further debate? No. I'll just quickly say, look, in response to that, industry. Oh, Councillor Dickerson, missed you up there. Sorry, you go.
I do apologise for the delay, Mr. Mayor. But
No, you
have your
go.
point if you like, and I'll come in after you if you want.
No, you go for it. You're right.
I only have a question, picking up on what Councillor Ivey said there. If, for example, Councillor Ivey and a majority of councillors voted against this particular motion,
Oh, left us hanging.
we have a report that be noted.
Councillor Dickerson, we've
and
lost
then
you there. You're
our
frozen and we
councillors,
lost you.
etc.,
Can you
would
just,
then
Councillor
be-
Dickerson, can you just repeat that? You're back with us now.
Yep, sorry.
If
So-
this was lost, you got up to?
Yeah, so if Councillor Ivey, if he votes against,
Oh, I think he's going to say if
I
Council-
understand where Councillor Ivey's going to agree with.
Councillor Dickerson, are you able to turn your video off and just speak? Is that an option that you've got there? Might help with. No, you can't. Is it?
No.
Right, go
Not
now while
allowed
it's
to.
good. Go now while it's good.
Right, so if Councillor Ivey convinced a majority of councillors to vote against this, that takes out point 3, which I think is where Councillor Ivey's focused. But if point 1, point 2 were knocked out, presumably that wouldn't stop us going ahead, because point 1 and point 2 don't talk about going ahead. Essentially, we're going ahead with it anyway. So if the motion was lost, presumably the CEO could still sign the deed, and all it would mean is that we're not noting it and we're not releasing the information that wasn't deemed confidential, wasn't important from a confidential perspective. So I just wanted to find out the implications of voting against it.
That sounds correct, but let's check with the CEO.
Yes, no, I've had a discussion with Director of Org Performance in light of that potential outcome. So we would still carry on the project. We've got existing resolutions on the book that this is the priority and this is the application. So we just carry on. You just wouldn't be noting a business case. So there is no impact on moving forward if this motion 1, 2, and 3 was lost.
And so further that,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, then
Yep.
if 1, 2, and 3 were lost, would you, as the chair, require another motion to replace this, or would you be happy to leave it as nothing in its place?
From what the CEO just said, we could just carry on because it would continue in train as it is now. Waiting for the business case.
Thank you.
Oh, waiting for the deed, I mean, not the business case. Got that. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Anything further? I'll just say, yep. So I support the industry and state and federal governments paying for the whole thing rather than ratepayers, but industry probably not going to put anything in because they love the idea because we're paying for their training centre. So they're under sort of no obligation. They'll just say use your VPA money to pay for that. Thanks very much. Thank you. Back to Councillor Butler for right of reply.
Yeah, just the last right of reply. All right, so I would suggest that a little bit backing onto your comments here that the renewable energy industry is, I believe, more responsible for building a trading centre than the ratepayer. So that's hence the reason for why I've been made the foreshadowed motion. To Councillor Ivey's point, I would suggest that the renewable energies might be a bit more positive about it. In fact, I mean, depends how you ask a question, isn't it? You know, so if we ask the right question, they may be delighted to say, well, you know, we could say, would you like to participate, or would you like to encourage, or you know, to be seen? Maybe they could be, I don't know, showered with some good publicity or something like that, so that they do have a positive view of being asked to contribute. You know, instead of just saying, you know, we're here to hitch you up, maybe we could say, can we invite you in this opportunity? You know, so sometimes the way you ask can give a better response. So I'd like to think a bit more optimistically that the corporates would perhaps be grateful for the opportunity to participate. Yeah, and I think just for I think back to also another point from Councillor Ivey too, is that earlier on in the meeting, he was concerned that with 17 billion being spent in the area, there wasn't really that much that we were receiving in relation to that in a how would you call it, perspective, proportionally. So maybe this is another way of helping them fulfil their obligations to the community and giving us I think in the words of the COO, a shakedown. I don't know, maybe that's a bad way to put. I mean, don't mention that to them, all right? Don't use that word. But I think more of an invitation into an opportunity for the betterment of the community and the welfare of the citizens. Yeah. All right. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, I'll put that being the first 2 points and Councillor Butler's point 3. I've now opened the voting. Please cast your votes. Councillors, I'll now close the voting. Carried 6 votes to 5. The next item is notices of motion, CCL 25/95, managing potential pollution in raw water. We've got Councillor Butler. Would you like to move your motion?
Back to me.
Just move that and I'll get a seconder.
Yes. Wait up. Just better just grab it here on the screen.
Righto, if you just move it, I'll get a seconder, then we can come back to you.
Yep, okay.
Move Councillor Butler, seconded by Councillor Toynton. Thank you. Councillor Butler.
So we moved as read. Is that the idea?
Yep.
Yep. All right. So very kind. So yes, my turn to speak.
Yep.
Okay. Very kind. So yes, I've put this motion forward here. So and I'm sure councillors have gathered this already. I have great concerns in regards to the wind farms, particularly. Not that the solar farms can't pollute as well, but and I have mentioned at a previous council meeting the studies by Strathclyde in Scotland, and also the Solberg report from Norway that calculated large amounts of PFAS, BPA, and microplastics that are shed from the turbines. So the purpose of what I'm trying to get to is obviously state significant developments, the approving bodies of state. However, we are in the purview of water, and so let me just read. This is from one of the Norwegian study groups. The combination of microplastics, fiberglass, dust, PFAS, and BPA poses a potential to human health and environmental catastrophe. Communities living near wind turbine installations may face increased exposure to these hazardous materials, affecting drinking water quality and the health of local systems, ecosystems that is. The long-term environmental impact of these materials remains largely unknown, raising significant concerns about the sustainability of large-scale wind energy initiatives, and that is something I have always banged on the drum, that these so-called sustainable energies are not sustainable. I think that's a fact now. I don't think we necessarily have to discuss that too much further. I think reports such as this are, how would you call it? There are estimates that that range from turbines shedding 150 grams a year to 60 kilos a year. So now let me just put this in perspective. One of the things that I keep coming across in my discussions of these matters is, okay, there's science on both sides. And I want to just put that to rest at the moment. No, there's true science and there's paid for science. So just to give an example, with the turbines, the 150 grams a year was done by a group that was actually paid for by the epoxy group who make the resins. So call that science if you want. I don't call it science. I call it paid cash for comment. But when you look at an independent study such as the Strathclyde Scotland, okay, which has no payment from the vested interest of the turbine producers, and when you look at the Norwegian report, which is the Solberg report, which is a 2022 report, and their estimate is, I think it was 4,000 times more, 41,000% greater than the figures provided by the other ones. So I put it to you that if I was to ask for 2 reports and one of them says, oh, there's almost insignificant pollution, and they're actually paying for the report, and then you look at the other guy who's not being paid by a vested interest and he says 60 kilos a year, I'm going to go for the guy with the 60 kilos a year because I can see a direct conflict of interest, a direct one. And look, in council, we're big on conflict of interest. We have to declare it, even like Councillor Cowley today had to declare, Councillor Wright had to declare. If there's a conflict of interest, that's a problem. And I'm put it to you that if the independent report says 60 kilos per year from one turbine, that's probably closer to the mark than the guy who's being paid for cash for comment. So, for instance, from the Norway report, they were saying 620 tonnes a year of BPA, PFAS, and microplastics being released in the environment. Now, in Norway, that is a disaster because they're marketing a lot of their agricultural products on the fact that they've got pristine environments. So that is going to be destroyed. So I'm just noticing my time's coming to a close. So what I wanted to say is the council, I would like us to work out or to submit or whatever, like like it says, what are we going to do when our PFAS and BPA from the wind turbines, like on the east coast, the east side of Burrendong, contaminates our water system, and then we now have a big problem of a toxic event, which then we need to provide water to our LGA in the event that these unsustainable and toxic wind turbine farms are going ahead with. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Wright?
Just had a question, actually. Just pulling that report back up again. Sorry, on point 2 of Councillor Butler's motion there. Please hold.
To identify potential sources of chemical of concern and possible strategies to isolate them.
Thank you. I just wondering, I'm just a question with respect to that. How many potential chemical sources are we talking? Hundreds of them, and again, what sort of time frame do we need to allow for that report to be completed? I'm assuming there's quite possibly that says to identify potential sources of chemicals of concern. How many potential sources of chemical concern are there?
To the CA, but I take it that there's numerous PFAS sources.
We'd have to rely. We're not a scientific organisation or environmental protection agency, so we'd have to rely on their current database of what is defined as chemicals of concern, and sometimes they call them chemicals of future concern. So we wouldn't know what that number is. There'd be a substantive list. Mr. Ryan, any other thoughts on that one?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Certainly, that's part of the question that I would need to set an answer around in terms of the number of, because some of the different websites you look at, there's hundreds. So it's what we would try and narrow down, I guess, to talk about that, or whether it's a generic sort of statement, particularly around the isolate. I would probably seek a bit of clarification on what that means in terms of isolating chemicals of concern that may or may not be in the water or may be a potential source. So I'm very mindful I'm not entering a debate here. It's just getting that clarification on what that would mean. Just for a bit of background, we're currently working with Water New South Wales under the Town Water Risk Reduction Program, and part of that is identifying risk in our catchment, which is also talking about chemical risk. So we've got that body of work occurring at the moment with the monitoring likely to finish around August this year. So in terms of timing for a report, I would actually like to have that information because that's something that we've partnered with Water New South Wales as paid by the state government for us to get a better understanding of our catchment, and that would certainly come into the mix. When we're talking about PFAS and PFOS, yes, we've got that in our aquifer at the moment. So we do have one of our bores switched off that we don't draw water from. But the river water supply, we do testing in that and it's been undetectable at this stage. So just a little bit of background leading into this. But certainly if I could get some clarification about what the isolation component of this particular notice of motion would mean. And happy to take it offline as well if that suits.
That might be the best, unless Councillor Butler can say immediately the isolate bit. Is there anything further to add there, or would you like to talk to...
I guess I would suggest that each turbine fan would be a source of the PFAS and the BPA. So yeah, there'd be hundreds of them. Yeah.
Righto, thank you. Any other further questions? Debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll vote against this motion, not because I necessarily sort of oblivious or don't care about the issues, but I think it's a little bit like what we've discussed before in relation to fluoride, in relation to other issues. Let's stick to the knitting. You know, we operate in an environment where we have a hierarchical system. We have a hierarchical system in government, and as well as that in science. We've got government departments whose responsibility it is specifically to look at some of these issues. Why are we doing it as a council? As Mr. Ryan said, we're working with these other government departments. They're taking the lead in what we've got to do and how we do, well, not necessarily how we do it, but the issues which need to be addressed. The system seems to be working pretty well. I think if it is, and I don't disagree with Councillor Butler, if the science comes out and says categorically this is an issue, then we will be forced to act on it, not because of our reading of the science, but because of greater brains than ours that have got some knowledge, would have read that and agreed that that is a specific problem and it needs to be addressed. But until the better brains than ours and the more educated in these fields than ours come out with that, I don't think we should be subjecting our staff to looking at these sorts of issues. I've got confidence that the state and federal government, the international science community will soon jump on these things if they become an issue, and it'll become very apparent without us having to do such a study. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Anyone? No? Oh, Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, just through fear of being a little bit facetious, I guess my question then is, where would this information be sourced from? And I know, Mr. Ryan mentioned a bit of work with the state government or state health, but and then how would we determine whether the information you provided was just cash for comment, as per Councillor Butler's words there? How do we verify the integrity of the information that then were then provided if it come from a third party, and it wasn't, as I say, just cash for comment with respect to that?
The CEO.
I'll just start before I throw to Mr. Ryan. So just to put it in context, Water New South Wales owns the actual water that we buy off them. So we're a customer of the water. We then treat it to a drinking standard. So it's an agency that is ultimately responsible for what's in that water. We get advice from those. When La Nina was on for 3 years, and major part of the reason we had a boil water alert to do with turbidity was that we're advised of the high risk of the catchment to do with cryptosporidium. So we have this tight relationship in terms of quality of water that we are being given as part of it, and it's at a catchment-wide scale. So there are agencies directly responsible. We will be relying on the agencies. They would have a variety of sources for their science, but I'll throw to Mr. Ryan for any further comment there.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Yep, certainly we would lean on the agencies again to get that type of information, and also through the New South Wales Water Directorate, who would also have some knowledge and experience in this. So they're bodies that we would lean on to get that type of information, so that we can compile this in terms of a report of credible information as has been expressed here today. Hope that helps.
Mr. Ryan, could you just explain what the Water Directorate is, please?
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. The Water Directorate is like an advocacy, or plays an advocacy role for water utilities throughout New South Wales. So that's from local water utilities such as ourselves through to the corporations like Hunter Water, Sydney Water, and our county councils. So they are a peak body for water within New South Wales. So they have the the ear of the government as well, but they've also got a lot of papers in terms of how to manage water, and that's why I would lean on New South Wales Water Director to do that. But that's their core role for local government and water utilities that are a corporation.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, that answer. Thank you. Any further debate, councillors, before we go back? I'll quickly say something then. Look, I'll support this because of the PFAS and PFOS issue. I learned a lot in preparation for the appearance on behalf of Country Mayors Association at the parliamentary inquiry a few months back there, thanks to Mr Ryan and also Mr Godfrey for all the info to do with that. And as was mentioned before, one of our bores has been turned off. We know that there's other sources of contamination for those town water supply bores, and that can be a real problem for us. And hearing from some of the other councils, some of them don't even know where their PFAS contamination in their town water supply bores is coming from. So anything we can find out more about that, and given that there's work being undertaken at the moment with the state water, then that'll probably come to us in a report anyway, and we can just tack on an extra little bit and it'll be good as gold in my opinion. Thank you. Back to the mover, Councillor Butler.
Just a quick question before I do a right reply, is that all right?
Yeah.
So just to Mr Ryan, is there actually something the water treatment plant can do in the event of a contamination event such as BPA and PFAS, like, or is it just that we just can't drink the water anymore and we have to go to bottled water, or you know what I'm trying to get at? So I'm just wondering, what is the process like? Would it be reverse osmosis? Would you have some other way of, what would be the treatment in that case?
To the CEO.
Yeah, Mr Ryan.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. Certainly, we've got, given the, I guess the emergence of PFAS, not necessarily the emergence of PFAS, but the emergence of PFAS within the drinking water supplies, not only in Dubbo but across the state where that is a concern. There are ways to treat that. Our plant cannot do that at the moment, and certainly we are in early stages of working out ways of treating for PFAS, knowing that it may be something that we need to deal with in the future to supply water, because we need to meet the criteria in the Australian Drinking Water Guidelines, which has a PFAS limit in that. So at this very point in time, no, we don't. There are different ways of treating for PFAS. You either do it at the source, or one of the other options we've been throwing around is treating it at the plant, so that all source water comes to you, and it's whether it's PFAS affected or not, it goes through that same sort of a process. But certainly no details at the moment. It's just working out cost-effective ways that we may be able to treat that, and then of course that will then go to business cases for us to determine what we need to do for future treatment of drinking water.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. That answer.
Yeah, that answers my question. Yes, thank you.
Your right of reply.
Reply, yeah. All right. So thank you again. Right. So I guess what I'm concerned about is obviously our, how would you call it, our zeal to see these wind turbines erected and into production, when they could considerably be, well, as I read out before, an economic disaster and an ecological disaster. So my concern is I would like to encourage. I'd like to. Sorry.
Yes, Councillor Dickerson.
Right of reply is used to reply to points brought up by other councillors during the debate, and I don't remember any councillors bringing up any points about wind turbines and ecological disaster during the debate. So I'm not sure that Councillor Butler can be raising those points in his point.
Okay, sure.
Right of reply.
Point taken.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. So, I guess just to I was going to respond to one of Councillor Ivy's points.
You can do that.
So yes. So yeah, I think he was. If I'm trying to remind myself how that went, but Councillor Ivy was saying he was going to vote against it because he didn't want the time invested in it. Was that? Am I quoting you right, or something like that? Anyway, yeah. So he was saying that the governing bodies are to be trusted, and that information, is that right? Is that yeah. So okay, so that's to Councillor Ivy's point. So I'd like to just read here from the Miller. This is Finelli D, and this was from the Public Library of Science. Up to 33% of scientists had personal knowledge of colleagues who had falsified data research. Up to 72% knew about other questionable research practices committed by their colleagues. Overall, in the next one, by Anderson, this was a study done by Anderson in Nature, Nature Journal. Overall, 33% of scientists funded by the NIH admitted that they engaged in questionable scientific behaviour during the previous 3 years. So what I'm trying to say to Councillor Ivey's point is that we shouldn't just take the word of the so-called governing authorities. We need to have independent science that shows what's going on and not somebody who's trying to protect a vested interest. And that is my concern. So there was a time when I think we could trust the, let's say, normal authority levels or whatever you want to call that. But I think, I think perhaps the COVID showed that too, where that they were wrong and they did things wrong and the information was falsified and data was misrepresented and information was not given that should have been given. So let's not trust that. Let's actually do independent research. And the key thing is, what is the influence? Is there a vested interest? Is it a truly independent study, or is it being paid for? And like I said, this one here, these are journals that have shown that a lot of scientists are basically up for, cash for comment. So let's not trust them. Let's actually do an independent study, and let's make sure that we get genuine information and not industry paid information. And that's my biggest concern. And I just want to encourage our council that we do whatever we can to resist the renewable energy projects currently on board. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, I have opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. Councillors, I will now close the voting. Lost 5 votes to 6. The next item is CCL 25/96, Management of Pest Bird Species. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Cowley. Thank you. Councillor Wells, would you like to speak to that motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm happy to support this motion. I think it's really important that we are looking at, managing the current problem that we have with the Indian minor birds. Also wanted to make reference to public forum with Mr. Stacey and him speaking about this particular issue, and it was really worrying, I think, to hear that up to 770 birds can be, brought about or hatched from only 2 just per year or over 6 years. That's really worrying to know that it can get to that amount, as well as then how they attack the native birds' nests and so on. So that's, I think, is really important that we do this, and I'm hoping that this particular organisation that Mr. Stacey spoke of is able to then approach for one of the community group can approach for some funds to actually support what they're trying to achieve. Just think it's very critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? I'll just very quickly say something then. Every time you see a feral bird, they're taking the place of a native bird. Well done to the Indian Minor Control Group, or the volunteers there. And it'll be interesting to see what the report comes back with, because we've noted we're spending vast sums of money cleaning the main street, and it's a bit like painting the Harbour Bridge. As soon as you've hosed it all down, then it's just all back there again, and you can just keep going round and round and round. But any control measures that can be done for especially starlings and pigeons down the main street at the moment would be a very welcome outcome. Councillor Wells, right to reply to anything there?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, I will put that. I've opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. Next item is CCL 25/97, Draft Planning Agreement VPA 24-003, Kerrs Creek Wind Farm. We had an alternative motion from Councillor Ivey, I think, to what's in the business papers. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that could I just read it out? that a draft planning agreement be negotiated with the proponent in accordance with the $1,050 per megawatt per annum as outlined in the Renewable Energy Benefit Framework. Number 2, that it be noted that this funding be shared with Cabonne Shire Council with a minimum of 2/3 of the funding quantum to be received by Dubbo Regional Council. 3, that a further report be presented to Council for consideration following further negotiations with the proponent.
Thank you. A seconder. Councillor Wright. Thank you. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, yes, hopefully it's fairly self-explanatory. In relation to the VPA which has been put up, the draft planning agreement which has been put up for council tonight, as I understand it, that will be modified if this motion is passed. And in so modifying it, I'd like to see some of the conditions in that VPA or in that planning agreement be modified to reflect some of the issues which I believe aren't quite right in the existing or the present agreement or draft agreement. So I won't necessarily go through those now because I think I can make that representation to the staff, and they'll be considered whether that does go into the draft planning agreement, which was, I understand, will come back to council. So thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? There being none, I will now open the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. Next item is CCL 25/98, Bulky Waste Collection Service to Community. Councillor Cowley, I believe, has an alternative motion.
I do indeed, Mr. Mayor. The motion is as read, with the exception of point 2, that council continues the pre-booked bulky waste collection service model for a further 12-month trial for areas that receive a 2-bin and 3-bin service.
Thank you. A seconder before the presentation, Councillor Wells, thank you. We'll now receive a presentation from the Manager, Resource Recovery and Efficiency. Thank you.
Hi there, my name's Amber and I'm the Waste Contract and Collection Coordinator here at Council. I'm here to provide an update on the bulky waste trial. Nearly 2,600 residents have used the bookable bulky waste service during the trial. This isn't just a change in how we collect waste. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. So nearly 2,600 residents have used the bookable bulky waste service during the trial. This isn't just a change in how we collect waste, it's delivering real benefits to our community and our budget, and we've already seen significant savings. If trial is continued, we'll save council over $143,640. To put that in perspective, the annual service will cost $526,995 in the 2026 financial year, and we're projecting that cost to drop to just $383,355 if the trial continues. By transitioning from the previous once-a-year collection, the service operates on a 4-week rotational schedule, offering residents 12 days per year to dispose of those larger unwanted items. And no, it doesn't all go in the one truck. The new service has led to a significant improvement in waste diversion. We're now seeing 57% of collected items redirected from landfill, a fantastic jump compared to the 38% in the 2024 financial year. This is a huge win for our environment and sustainability goals. To get a real understanding of how our residents feel, we've implemented a feedback system. A survey was sent out at the completion of each bulky waste booking, and this is what they had to say. The results are very positive. 82.8% of participants recommended council continue to offer a bookable bulky service. Furthermore, 64.3% indicated they would even be willing to pay for an additional booking if needed. On a scale of 5, the average score for the ease of making a booking was 4.23. 92.5% of people preferred having multiple booking slots to choose from. These figures demonstrate support for the new system. A number of councils in New South Wales have or are actively moving towards this type of bulky service because it's proven to be safer and more effective. We're learning from best practices and seeking to implement a system that works well in other communities. If you're a tenant, there's one extra step you must complete during the creation of your account, which involves being verified by your landlord. And the good news is the real estate agents have averaged a 2-day turnaround for these verifications since the system commenced. We've worked hard to make this process as smooth as possible for our tenants. If you are an owner, you can't access bulky for your tenanted properties. Think of it this way, tenants now have control over their bulky pickup and tipping vouchers. So just like you wouldn't fill your tenant's bin with your household rubbish or fill up a water tank on their property, owners are also not entitled to use their tenants' other waste services, including their bulky waste collection and tipping vouchers. It's true that illegally dumped rubbish reports have risen in the past financial year, but it's important to understand that this is not directly related to the new bulky waste service. As you can see in the chart, the yellow bars represent dumping reports that are not related to curbside bulky waste. Looking specifically at bulky waste presented on the curb, in 23-24 there are 104 illegally dumped rubbish reports made concerning bulky waste. Due to the limitations of the old system, with its once-a-year collection, only 8 of these could be effectively resolved by the bulky waste program within a reasonable timeframe. Whereas in 24-25, while yes there were 23 extra reports, bringing the total number of bulky waste presented on the curb to 127, 109 of those had the ability to be resolved with the new system. Resolved with the new, more frequent and responsive system. This means we are now much better equipped to address and resolve instances of bulky waste being left out inappropriately. To summarise, the new bookable bulky waste system offers significant advantages in terms of cost efficiency, resident convenience and environmental sustainability.
Thank you very much. Councillors, Councillor Cowley, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, thank you very much for the presentation. Great information. I know that the community has been very much invested in conversations about this, the new system. The extension of the new motion to extend the trial for another 12 months will give us an opportunity to collect even further data. I note that it will also give us an opportunity to run a clear education campaign with some concise information and precise information for the community to better understand exactly how the bulky goods pickup service runs now. It's pleasing to see that the diversion of bulky goods from landfill has risen, and dare I bang on a bit further about a tip shop. Perhaps we could use this next 12 months of the trial to consider the diversion of further bulky goods towards a tip shop, which I know is mooted to be established both in Wellington and in Dubbo. And also I note that the employment of 3 full-time people to oversee this bulky goods collection service is not only good employment-wise, but has also resulted in the diversion of bulky goods from landfill. So all in all, I commend the motion to councillors and the extension of the trial for 12 months.
Thank you. Further debate? Councillor Wells?
Not a debate, just comment and question. One, the comment is thank you for the really interesting presentation, and what you put up on the screen was what we don't have, and that was really interesting. Thank you. I do have a question though around the illegal dumping, and if you could clarify what that means, what it actually is and how it's identified. Thank you.
To the CEO.
Mr. Jennings.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the illegal dumping is basically anything ranging from piles of rubbish, obviously out the front of a house, which I'll touch on in a minute, through to waste that shouldn't be where it is, for that reason as well. What the Bookable service has allowed us to do is work with landowners very closely when piles are identified that basically shouldn't be there, or they've they haven't quite got the handle on the pickup schedule and how to make a booking. It has allowed the staff to work with landowners to get those pickups made, based on the fact that there was still some spare capacity in the Bookable system as well. So it has allowed us some more flexibility in that regard.
Is that anything further?
It does, thank you. I just also was wanted to say that in the marketing or with the extension for a further 12 months, it would be really good if we had not just the concise information, but helping people that don't navigate electronic systems really well. So if somebody that's potentially, I don't want to sound like I'm stereotyping people, but somebody that could be elderly that might want to come in and talk to somebody at front desk about how they can book it and not be told, oh, you just go on to DRCME or that. So just wanted to be able to have a diverse way of meeting the needs of all of the users. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Toynton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm just looking at page number 146 of the report here. It says that to date, 2,590 pre-booked collections have been undertaken. Do we have any recorded data from prior to this trial as to how many pickups, when it was just dumped on the curb, come around once a year and emptied? Do we have that data?
The CEO?
No, we don't have that specific address data. We just have the tonnages of previous bulky waste pickups because it wasn't allocated to an address.
Councillor Toynton.
Thank you. So I've done a brief run of numbers. So how many people do have the 2 and 3 bin service, just so I can run some quick numbers if we've got that data available?
CEO?
Just looking at council staff, Ms. Palmer, do you have that number? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Chair. Sorry. Apologies, I did have that number. $21,400.
Councillor Toynton.
Thank you. So 21,400. I thought I read somewhere earlier that it was 23,000. So just as a brief running number, so 1,178 tonnes of rubbish divided over the 23,000 residents, and we'll have to adjust my figures to go to your exact numbers, would be 51.21 kilos of garbage per resident. Now, the 360 tonnes that were picked up going on 2,590 participants is 138.99 kilos of rubbish per resident. So how can we say that this is actually a working trial?
To the CEO.
So I think the point is that we, as in response to your first question, we don't have the data about which households we had tonnage. So, there was no way that all residents put out rubbish. One of the positive, and I'll use the positive feedbacks that our staff have put forward in the report, is that people have found the ability to book when it suits them. So when they're moving out of their house, when they're moving out of Dubbo, that they're able to book something that then enables them to do a big cleanup. So I think yes, there's some advantages to doing historically, but I think it would be incorrect maths to assume that every resident. I think it's a very simple mathematical equation. I get that because there's a lack of data. I don't think it would be very accurate to boil it down to a per capita versus. And again, I'll point out that this is not the end of the financial year. We have to get this report to you with 3 months to go because we have to get ready for the new financial year. So I understand the point you're making. I just think it's not quite a valid approximation.
Councillor Toynton, further?
Just as I was sort of trying to work out, we've got absolutely no discernible data. So I'm just wondering how this trial first came to be when there was absolutely no information to support it, to say that this will be either a great idea or it'll be a failure. I've seen many of people have commented on numerous channels that they are not happy with the way this trial is going and they liked it the way that it was. I get that there's advantages and disadvantages. Whereas if I say, okay, my lease on my place is up at whatever time, I've got all this rubbish and I've only got a small hatchback car, yep, put it on the curb, book it in, and it's gone. And conversely, other people say, okay, they own their own homes, live there for forever and a day, and they can say, okay, time to clear the shed out, dump all this stuff on the curb, and in 2 weeks it's gone. So I see there's arguments on both sides of the field for this, but I can't support extending this trial.
To the CEO for some history on where it came from.
Yeah, and it's mentioned in the reports that other councils have moved towards this. There's a couple of drivers. So one is more efficient use of resources. So the fact that we can book it in, there's a cycle that people can use. It's better customer service because you book it in as your needs. And I don't think it is just people moving. If you're like me and you're a bit disorganised, when you see the stuff getting put out on the curbside, you realise it's too late to clean out. So you miss the boat for another 12 months. So it is more responsive. The other one is that a lot of other councils of a similar scale have moved to this model, and they have shown through, and we've got good networks with other local governments, that there are savings over a longer period of time. And I think one of the key one also is that we have an obligation to reduce the amount we're putting in a hole in the ground. There's a few key reasons there. We want to maximise, yes, we've got plenty of land available for landfill per se. We can build future bigger holes in the ground, but they're very expensive. So we want to maximise your infrastructure, even if you're just putting it in the ground. We're getting much better non-landfill return rates because we're able to have it organised, because we've got permanent staff, and rather than collecting it in one big mass lump, as somewhat to what Councillor Cowley said, we can be more organised and more deliberate in getting the waste streams out of the landfill stream. So I think there are some key advantages. This trial will enable us to get more data and put another report in front of councils in the next 12 months. And people that use the system, I know initially, certainly there was, I was made aware of strong feedback from community, and it wasn't necessarily by people who are having using the new facility. Once people actually use it in their context of their own needs in their homes, they are very positive. So to Councillor Wells' point, helping people understand what this looks like, get more participation and uptake, I think will be part of getting you better data as decision makers, as councillors.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? I'll just say something before we go back to the mover. Look, I'll support this because I'd like to see the full year of data, but also the second year where more people understand how it actually works. And if we could really ramp up the advertising and the education and awareness campaign like it says in this motion here, then I'm sure more people understand how it works and be able to make a better judgment after a little bit longer. Thank you. Councillor Cowley, right, a reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And you've just articulated, I think, what I was about to say, but I'd just like to pick up on a point of Councillor Toynton's, who was concerned about a lack of data and the figures and absolutely nothing, and I quote, to go on. The extension for 12 months is in order to give us more data. So I'm not grasping why, in fact, Councillor Toynton would vote against this, but I would urge him not to do so. And I would urge you all to extend the trial for 12 months to give us that data that Councillor Toynton is actually so vehemently seeking.
Thank you. Councillors, I've opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. Councillors, I'll now close the voting. Carried 10 votes to 1. Next item is CCL 25/99 Badangra Wind Farm Community Benefit Fund 2025. Do I have someone to move that? Councillor Ivey, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Wells, thank you. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, look, it's a great benefit fund that's Iberdrola pays for under the voluntary planning agreement, which I think was negotiated with originally with the Wellington Shire Council, but it's been really very effective over the years in providing small-scale benefit to a lot of the sporting and community groups within the Wellington and district. I note as part of the motion too that prior to the next round of funding, we really undertake a review of how that consultative committee works. And I think that's a good idea because, as I've foreshadowed a couple of times, really we are about to have a whole lot of projects coming on board. And what we want to do is make sure that the community benefit funds associated with each of those projects are coordinated so that we really can get the best for the community. So I'd commend the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate? I'll just make a very quick comment before we move on. One of the things we probably do need to look at, and that other councils are doing, is setting up a future fund of all this VPA money. Armidale Council, I know they're spruiking it. They're going to have $85 million in their future fund from renewable projects. So if we had something similar, then the interest of that paid back into the local Wellington and surrounding community every year in perpetuity, then that might be better than just handing out like to whatever we do and doesn't sort of, you just go through it. Just money burns a hole in your pocket. But if we stuck it into a future fund, as some other councils are starting to do, and set it up there for the local Wello community, then it'll probably give a lot more benefit for a lot longer time. Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. I have opened the voting. Please cast your electronic votes. Councillors, I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. The next item is CCL 25/100, results of public exhibition, council policy technology provisions for councillors. Councillor Chowdhury, I believe, has an alternative motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That CCL 25/100, the result of public exhibition, council policy, technology provision for councillors, that council defer the decision to be ordinary council meeting, 27th of May, 2025.
Thank you. A seconder? Councillor Richardson, thank you. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just quickly, there was a little bit mixed reaction within the councillors, so I thought it would be really good if we have a bit workshop or discuss among us and have a meeting with our leadership team, so that way we can have a clear understanding what we are voting for, and then we can take a proper decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'll reluctantly, in some ways, agree with the motion, because I'd actually like probably it to go a little bit further. But still, I think this is that's not a bad compromise. I think the motion, the original motion put up, was really lacking in a whole lot of areas. One, that there was a draft policy put out for public exhibition on this issue in November of last year. It went for 42 days. The particular draft policy, which was only, I think, 7 pages long, including a cover page and a contents page and another page, so there was really only about 3 pages in there. It was downloaded 52 times, which means that actually there were 52 people, unless one person downloaded it 52 times, but I don't think that'll be the case. There were 52 people that were interested in it, and having read it, that draft policy, then not one single person made a submission. So I can really think that it's fair to infer from that that there was general, of those people who downloaded and read it, were in agreement with that draft policy. Now, I'm perplexed really when we come to this meeting that in actual fact the draft policy which we were to vote on has something in there that's 180 degrees opposed to what was in the draft policy. And I refer to the ability for councillors to bring their own personal devices or to use their own personal devices with appropriate security measures, that was to be, which was in the original proposal, that we could do that, that went out for public exhibition, but now the proposal here was that it be disallowed. In actual fact, that that it not be permissible for councillors to use their own devices. Now, I will say I have a personal interest here. Since I've been on council, I have always used my own personal device. It's got appropriate security there. I find it is a way that I can operate more efficiently with my council business. I think if I wasn't able to do that, it would be severely restrict my ability to operate effectively, because like all councillors, I've got competing priorities. I've got business priorities, I've got personal ones, and I've got council ones. And I think really anything that this council can do to help facilitate councillors to operate effectively should be the #1 priority. I'm told that in the document that, oh yes, we've got security concerns. Now, I'd like to take it up between now and the next meeting, what those security concerns are and why they can't be addressed, because nothing I've seen in this document or under the confidential documents has highlighted why having your own personal device actually poses an unacceptable security risk. That may be, but I certainly haven't read it in these documents. So look, as a compromise, I think actually we would be better off just to adopt the original policy document as went out to public exhibition. I don't know why we shouldn't, but as a compromise, perhaps we defer it for a month, and hopefully some sanity will prevail. Thank you.
Any further debate, councillors? There being none. Oh, Councillor Richardson, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually don't see the problem with this, because I think as councillors we have an obligation to use the equipment that's supplied by council for council work only. I don't see why we should be able to use our personal private equipment. The worst case scenario would be if you were using your personal device for council business and you inadvertently sent a CC of a confidential email to someone on your email list. Then you've breached everything. So I don't have an issue with this motion at all, and I support Councillor Chowdhury's motion as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? There being none, we'll go back to Councillor Chowdhury for right of reply.
I'm good, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. I'll put that motion. I've opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried 10 votes to 1. Next item is CCL 25/101 Draft 2025-2026 Budget, Operational Plan and Associated Documents. Do I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Wright. Thank you. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's a meaty document, and congratulations to the staff that put it together. I have studied it as best I can, but by gosh, there's a lot of information in there, and it's a lot of there's a lot of time and expertise needed to get your head really around it. One of the things perhaps I might just ask, and it's probably being a little bit pedantic or going into the minutiae a little bit, but I know within the community we have had a lot of debate, particularly about the Dubbo Regional Theatre and the charges. And I did go through and look at those particular charges, and there didn't seem to be. There was a slight increase on last year on those charges, but perhaps a question through you, Mr. Mayor: have the stakeholders for the Dubbo Theatre had any input into the formulation of those charges for this coming year?
Noting that their drafts to the CEO.
Mr. Arms.
Thank you, CEO, through you, Mr. Chair. So they've always encouraged during the public submission period to make their submissions. Over the last month, you're quite correct, Councillor Ivey, we have been talking a lot with a number of the users of the facility, and we've worked very hard to address their concerns and improve our own operations. Certainly, I would say the majority of the issues don't directly relate to fees and charges. Fees and charges, however, are always a tension point in everything that we do, particularly now as our cost of living experiences are really becoming quite paramount. There is an additional level placed in the fees and charges. So we've looked to more clearly define the ballet schools, for example, and also create a community fee below them. So we've tried to address that. We look forward to the community and particularly the user groups having a look at the fees and charges and giving us a call and talking to us about it. We also will be giving them a call and running them through it and explaining what we're trying to do, as well as what we're trying to do operationally in response to their concerns. So I can assure you that we're listening and we're working hard to improve what we do.
Thank you. Anything further, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just echoing Councillor Ivey's comments there, that it is a substantial document and there's a lot of information to take in. But look, I do urge community to have a look at that. I suppose a bit of table of contents, if you like, it on the first page of that particular report that talks a bit about the different aspects of the documents that are included in there. So certainly having a look at that delivery program and operational plan will give the community a good idea as to where council's looking to head over the next 4 years. One of the challenges that this council has that many other councillors are having, and someone closer to home perspective, we see a bit of news of Bathurst in the local media, is long-term viability financially. And I noticed on page 192 of the report here that we're looking at talks a bit about the asset renewal strategy and some of the challenges around that. It just talks about some strategies that council staff are working on. I wonder if we can sort of elaborate a little bit on that and maybe some of the things that they've got in mind.
To the CEO.
Yeah, alluding to the asset management backlog that we have, which is significant. But before, and that is typically a conversation you have with the community about a special rate variation. If we want a certain type of infrastructure, typically roads, but others as well, to maintain a service level, we have to seek above, typically councils have to seek above what the rate cap is, because the rate cap is just base costs really, and sometimes they even get that wrong, IPART, when they give us a measure of inflation that's different to what we're experiencing. What we are going to be working on in the next 12 months is getting a real fine-grained and greater clarity around that asset management backlog. We don't think it's fair to you as the elected body representing community, or indeed the community, to be saying, hey, we need more funds, unless we have that have the utmost confidence. Now, we're confident in those numbers, they're very broad. We want to get a much finer-grained level of detail and understanding in our asset management plans. Assets, like we have $3 billion worth of assets, and they are what sends councils effectively into unsustainability. I will point out that in the Auditor General's, and we had this discussion at the budget workshop, that we are called out by the Auditor General, in the top 15 of, well financially managed councils. We're not in the bottom 15, as it were. And they, listening to the Auditor General talk at Country Mayors, they purposely did that to have set an ambition for councils to get off the lower list, if you will. And I guess that doesn't come about by accident. It comes about by financial discipline. We'd love to do more for our community, but we can't do everything. And that comes about with staff providing good advice to councillors, and it's still going to be an ongoing challenge. We are constrained in money. We necessarily, in budgets, if we have to increase money in one area, we have to take it from another, and you'll see that in some of the responses to the notices of motion in the business papers as well. But that asset management task, that asset management backlog, yep, you can get grants grants, but you can't bank on getting enough grants at the right time. So that's the body of work we'll be undertaking at the large scale.
Thank you. Does that answer that one? Any other questions, comments, debate, councillors? There being none, we'll go back to the mover for a right of reply to anything. Councillor Ivey.
Only just to perhaps again reiterate what Councillor Wright said, look, encourage the public to be engaged in this process, to have a look at it. It goes on public exhibition, I think, on the 28th of April, so and goes through May into early June. So please have a look at it and make submissions, again, back to the minutiae if you want to, as well as look at the big picture, but make some submissions on specific aspects which you as a member of the public are really concerned with. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, we'll vote on that. I've opened the electronic voting. Please cast your votes. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. The next item is CCL 25/102, comments and matters of urgency. This week we'll start with Councillor Richardson. Comments and matters of urgency. Anything to note?
No, I actually don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Butler.
Yes, I just wanted to thank the council for their timely attention to the Stewart Town Oval. And I attended, along with the Mayor and Councillor Toynton and Ryan, to the Ironbark Festival. And I think it went really well. I believe they had 4,000 people.
5,000.
5,000. Okay, thank you. Stand corrected. 5,000. And Stewart Town population is only a small amount, so that's an incredible result for a small town. But yeah, back to the original point was to thank the council for to make sure that the tasks that needed doing in order to make the oval usable were completed in a timely manner. Yeah, so I wanted to thank him for that. And just, I did want to draw council's attention to the lady who spoke at the gallery earlier on, and that she asked if the council had read the Port Hedland documents regarding to the dangers of the DNA contamination in the vaccines that are currently being promoted throughout Australia. And I would ask you, as a matter of integrity, that you would actually read those articles, and particularly the video from Professor Dalgleish, who's the chief immunologist in the UK, and his concerns from a medical point of view, and his call for the immediate rescission. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sunday week ago, I went out and attended the Caves. I think it was the Caves Experience team. Were there. I had an hour and a half there looking around the actual fossil digging which is going on within the caves, undertaken by Flinders University. There's a team of people there from, I think there were about 3 or 4 actual people digging, 2 or 3 then sifting through materials to identify and find fossils. And that afternoon, I think 15 students were coming from Flinders University to be there as part of their archaeology and course. Talking to the staff there too about the enthusiasm is pretty infectious. They really do think that, and I agree, that there's a tremendous potential there at the Wellington Caves for the caves to actually make a bit of money out of, as well as become more involved with the scientific and the exploration community. The sort of thing that, as you know, I've been banging on a little bit about the low vacancy or the low occupancy rates at the Wellington Caves caravan park. And one of the proposals that I think is being talked about is to perhaps introduce a program where you could pay, if you're an amateur paleontologist or archaeologist, that you could go along and you could dig with experienced people, with the Flinders University people. They've got a 2 metre by 2 metre pit that goes down 5 metres. It can potentially go down another 5 metres, and each day they are literally finding and identifying fossils from that dig. So the opportunity would be there for paying customers to spend some time with those experienced people as part of a actually digging, identification, educational program. And I think that, you know, there's 8 billion people in the world, and there's quite a few there who are quite keen amateur paleontologists that would be keen to do that sort of thing. So I don't think too many people from Wellington perhaps are going to go out there and pay $1,000 a day or whatever it might be to do it, but there will be people within Australia and overseas that would be willing to do that. So I think the challenge that we've got and that staff have got is really try to develop that concept into something that it could really become quite world renowned, because I'm told that the range of fossils they've got there, I think they're now identifying fossils that are somewhere between 50 and 80,000 years old. And the further down you go, of course, the older they get. So it really is something which I think the Dubbo Regional Council can really work on and try to exploit. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cowley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, I am looking forward very much to having the honour of attending the Geary Anzac Day service this coming week on Friday. My first opportunity to do so, and as part of that ceremony, I will be reading one of my very favourite poems, In Flanders Fields, and having made the pilgrimage to that part of the world just last year, and having stood in those very fields, I know that my challenge will be to get through that poem without getting choked up. But it did remind me last year when we were, as I said, we're standing between those row upon row, that we mumble those words lest we forget twice a year at Anzac Day and Remembrance Day, and it is beholden on all of us to remember exactly what we are supposed to remember, that we don't lest we forget. And that's not just to remember the past, but to ensure that it never happens again, and that starts with us, with tolerance and compassion. So yes, very much looking forward to it, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple of things. So Wednesday, a couple of weeks ago, Wednesday the 9th of April, I had the opportunity to attend the local Indigenous Trade Fair that was held across in the DRTCC, and it was really interesting to see it get brought to Dubbo and to go in there and see over 60 businesses and 60 stall holders showcase their businesses that they have in this community, and I didn't even know a lot of them. I was really surprised, but to see you know, a range of really strong First Nations businesses thriving in this area, I was really proud to be a part of that, and they were very, I think, appreciative of their relationship with Dubbo Regional Council and the opportunity to have the event across there in the DRTCC. It was great. So I just wanted to say that was, you know, something to shout out about that. I wanted to give another shout out about the Youth Week on last Wednesday, and in particular the two, Brendan and Mia, who were the chairs on both the Dubbo Day, the Dubbo Youth Weeks Festival, as well as Wellington. These two young people are amazing. Coming through the ranks, they're so confident speaking at these events. And Mia is also on the New South Wales Youth Council, so that's a great asset for us. So vibrant, and not to mention all of the other members on the Youth Council. I'm just really excited about what the next few years is going to look like with this Youth Council. I also wanted to mention that I'll get the opportunity to go to Yamundri this Friday, and I've been doing that generally with my colleague Councillor Wright. We've been going out there for a number of years. Doing the, you know, the Anzac Day Memorial and getting to do our speech. It's a wonderful little community. I love that we get to go out to these smaller communities and just connect, listen to them, hear from them about what their wants are, but also hear the sombre conversation around what had happened all so long ago, and also get to talk about how Aboriginal people were a part of that process and how they weren't recognised, and more so today. So it's just it's really cup filling for me to be a part of that Anzac Day process out at Yamundri. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, just quickly, I will say I did attend the Man from Ironbark Festival on the weekend, and it was an awesome event. It was really well ran, and I take my hat off to all the organisers that did it. And I will be attending the Stewarttown Dawn service on Friday. Look, Stewarttown holds a special place for me. My past mother lived there for over 20 years, so it's just good to get out, like Councillor Wells said, to these smaller communities and be on the ground with the people and actually hear what they're saying and move forward with the village people.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Oh, look, I'll just reiterate Councillor Wells's comments with regards to Youth Week. I attended on Wednesday here in Dubbo as well. Unfortunately, couldn't get to Wellington though. But huge numbers in attendance. A stack of stallholders there. The queues for the sausages and the queues for the Dippin' Dots. It was not sure which one was the longest, but nevertheless, I did also see some commentary on social media that was a little bit negative. But certainly the commentary around everyone who was in attendance was extremely positive, and I certainly took a couple of my staff from my business along as well, so we could wander around and check it out for ourselves. But well done to all the team and the organising committee for putting it together. Great job.
Thank you. Councillor Toynton and Councillor Dickerson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've actually got a couple for this meeting. So the first one is the solar project at Geary. So after the last standing committee meeting where we raised the issue of Venn Energy and the Boree Solar Farm, the community of Geary's organised a get-together on the 27th of April at the Geary Showground at 2 p.m. So I encourage anyone who can turn up to support your small community and find out what's going on out there. The second item is the Man from Ironbark Festival. So a shout out to Marcus Hannay, the Stewarttown Advancement Association, the Country Women's Association, the volunteers and everyone involved in making the event a success. And now I've got a special shout out. So recently I was out buying a shirt at Harry's Menswear, good shop. Coincidentally, it was this shirt. There was a group of young men there being fitted out for suits for a wedding. We just sort of got to talking, and I sort of said, who they were, who I was. So I said to them, look, if it gives the opportunity, I'll give them a shout out. So congratulations to Stefan and Melody of Wellington on your wedding on the 11th of April. Wish you the very best of success and many happy years to come. I think that'd wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dickerson.
Thank
Here
you,
we go.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
I think I've come through there
Yeah,
now.
we've got you
Just
now.
had to wait. Yep, good. Quick birthday shout out to our CEO. Happy birthday, Muzz. And missing you all here in Bali. Wish you were here.
Thank you, Councillor. Just from myself very quickly, the best beard and the best mullet competition at the Man from Ironbark Festival were something to behold. Looks like Councillor Ryan's doing a beard versus noggin contest. He's made an early start there for 12 months' time, as have I. But it was so well organised and it was just chock-a-block. Like around lunchtime, there was 5,000 people through the gates for the whole day, as people have said, and it was really, really good. The last thing, just very quickly, is I note that the Minister for West New South Wales and Regional New South Wales, Tara Moriarty, 2 Fridays ago was in the district but did not come to Dubbo. Couldn't come to Dubbo to meet with impacted locals and stakeholders about the Sports Hub and PCYC, but she was on the news at the wind farm out the back of Badangra and called the Dubbo Sports Hub a phantom project and a project that doesn't exist, even though her own department tendered this out, spent $3 million on the design at the CSU site, spent $2 million of that $3 million on her staff wages in public works. And this is after the government had recommitted to the project. They'd considered the project, recommitted to it, and it came back $22 million over budget. So Minister Moriarty's own department then suggested that another site be found, and that occurred by the PCYC. A variation application was put in. The Minister for Sport requested that the Minister for Regional New South Wales, Tara Moriarty, sign off on that. So many things could be said, but Phantom Project isn't one of them. That's just rubbish. The people of Dubbo and West New South Wales are sick of this, and it really is time for Chris Minns to step in and fix this mess that has been created for the youth of the region. Thank you. Now, the next thing we have, confidential items. Under Section 10A of the Local Government Act, the next items being CCL 25/103, 104 and 105 have been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of Council. Can I now have someone move us into confidential session to deal with these confidential items? Moved Councillor Cowley, seconded Councillor Butler. We have no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public, but do any members of the public gallery have any comments to make regarding the proposal to hear the items in closed session of Council? That's Section 10A4 of the Act. Arguments for or against confidentiality? No, there being none. I'll now put the motion. Electronic voting is open. Please cast your votes to go into confidential session. I'll now close the voting. Carried unanimously. I declare the motion carried unanimously. We will now move into closed session, the time being 8:39 p.m. The council returned to open session at 9:14 p.m. Welcome back. I now ask the Governance Officer to play the resolutions from the confidential session. There are no further items for consideration of the ordinary council meeting, and I declare the meeting closed. The time being 9:15 p.m. Web streaming has now been completed. Thank you for your attendance. Please stop the web streaming.